And then you'll see all these other folks here. Clay Ellis, I will point him out. His career started 30 plus years ago. He was a part of this when Hamilton actually transitioned from an in-house district to outsourced school district. Really appreciative of you being here, Clay. Thank you very much. But the real meat of it is on the left. I'd like you to take note. Jonathan Romines, our Senior Vice President of Operations, covers the Southeast for us. Jonathan grew up in this business. He grew up in this industry. He grew up in schools, cleaning them, managing them, and doing this business the right way. So Jonathan, thank you for being here with us. Chris Thomas, same way. He spent his life in this industry. He lives 2 hours down the road. He runs the state of Tennessee for us in operations, and you'll get to hear from him today. Chris, thank you. Kyle Gribble. Kyle is basically been my ace in my sleeve. Everywhere I go in this state, I bring Kyle with me because he sells himself. Kyle is the guy here. I'm really thankful for him. He'll lead the transition, and I can't wait for y'all to talk to other people in the state of Tennessee of just about who Kyle is, what he represents, and how he is. He's from just up the road in Sparta, Tennessee, and he lives 2 hours away. Dennis Willis, you'll notice him in the crowd. You'll hopefully hear from him today. But Dennis was a part of this account years ago, and is going to be a part of it again. And Dennis, I'm really appreciative of you being here. He's been identified as our district manager and knows this community, is invested in the schools, and I think he is going to do the right thing by you guys every single day like he did back then. With that, I'm going to move it over, and I'm going to let Chris get up here and talk about our program, our approach, and our cost. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Appreciate you guys giving us the time. So how are we going to do it? We get up here and discuss everything and how we're going to do it. So the very first thing we did is, Kyle, myself, and Dennis, we got together to say, how are we going to make this, better for the community? The first thing we take a look at is managers that we're going to have. We implemented an 8-manager system. We want to make sure that these managers, when they're out in the buildings, don't have to go out and try to take care of 10, 12 buildings. You've seen that probably in the past, but what we're doing is we're trying to make sure that these managers have a base that they can go to and only have 7 to 8 buildings to go out and manage. Our team that we have, you can see that we have a quality assurance manager that we put into this program. This person's going to be going out and making sure that we're doing our monthly site visits, making sure that we're checking on us as we are doing the job. You guys don't have to go back behind us and make sure we're doing the job. We're doing it ourselves with our quality manager, assurance manager. Administrative assistant, making sure that Dennis and Kyle have support here to make sure that the employees are taken care of. Our administrative assistant will also be recognized with, we have a talent and acquisition person that'll be focused right here in Hamilton County Schools. They'll be helping us find workers as we need them, making sure that all positions are filled at all times. So you'll have an administrative assistant and a talent acquisition position. Over on that right-hand side, you'll see our transition team. We put Kyle and Dennis back in there because they're going to be here from start to finish. Once we find out, the way Hamilton County is going to go forward and they can move forward with us, we hit the ground running. Kyle and Dennis, myself, we come right up and we start working with the team here on boots on ground and make sure that we're going out and starting to put everything together. You can see some other names up there as Clinton Waller, Kent Armstrong. These are local folks that are going to be here to make sure that this transition gets pushed forward. So how's our breakdown? We talked about having 8 managers. This isn't set in stone, but the very first thing, like I said, we did was we really started to take a look at the demographics, the areas, and making sure that these managers know which zones they're going to be owning, making sure that they know geographically where they're going to be running things. Like I said, this isn't set in stone. We pulled this from Hamilton County. This is how you guys zone it out. So we kind of want to copy what you guys do with our managers and make sure that they have, zones themselves to make sure that they're taking care of those accounts. You'll see again, our assistant manager, we've recognized Dennis as our director, but he'll have an assistant manager to also help with the 8 managers underneath him. You'll see our administrative assistant, our recruiter, and our quality assurance manager. So So our transition approach, this is where we get into the meat of it. Like I said, as soon as everything is taken care of and put into place, we start working boots on ground. We'll come up, the employees are number one, our project. We want to make sure that we are starting to have town hall meetings with them to make sure that we are in front of them. Our HR team, Clay Ellis and his team, with the transition, will come in immediately and start having conversations with the employees to make sure that they know they're going to be taken care of. Our operational team will be out here talking and starting to find other managers to fill those roles that we need. So you'll see between March and June, that's when that transition on our side takes place. We start working, going through all the background checks, everything that we need to get started to where we go live. And these town halls don't stop. As we go live, we continue to have town halls and have conversations with our employees to make sure that they're taken care of on a daily basis, and we're taking care of them. So as we get into it, our program breakdown, this is what I think everybody wants to see. So on that right-hand side, you know, we're transparent. We want to be fully transparent with Hamilton County. You're a partner of ours. So we want to make sure you guys are seeing everything that we have. So you can see our program costs. This is our costs that we sent out. You can see what we have in there for supplies and equipment, our management, our hourly labor, and, you know, that small number in margin. You know, when we did our best and final, we took it from ourselves. So you can see we proposed only a 2.5% increase when we were looking at everything. That money doesn't come from the workers, it doesn't come from the laborers, it comes from us when we looked at this. Our robust management team, we're putting more managers in here than I think Hamilton County's ever seen. 8 managers plus 2 district managers on top of them to make sure they have support. Our dedicated recruiter. Our managers don't have to go out and find workers. We have somebody doing it for them. Going out and making sure that everybody is full, all schools are taken care of, and managers can be inside the buildings making sure that the principals are getting the needs that they need. Current wages, we'll maintain the current wages for the employees that are out there. And we want to make sure that this is key. We're full year round. We're not sending anybody home. When we have summer breaks, we're making sure that those schools have workers inside those buildings full year round. We know we need workers inside these buildings. You guys need workers inside these buildings to make sure everything's taken care of during the summer, during all breaks that we have. And we made sure that we put that into our pricing as we go forward into this partnership. We need these workers and employees as much as you guys do. So we don't send anybody home. We put a lead in every building, you know, as well as having those managers on site. These leads in the evening times at the high schools, the middle schools, and elementary schools. It's key to make sure that we have those leads inside those buildings, managing the people in the evening times. And then our quality control systems. We have to check on ourselves. We have to make sure that we're doing the job that you guys are asking us to do, holding ourselves accountable. That way you guys don't have to hold us accountable. Our new program with Rounding Bliss that we're going to install, we're not going to get into that, but it's next level. We're using AI. We're making sure that we have everything out there that we need to make sure everything is taken care of inside those schools. We usually get into this slide and start talking about what makes a difference between ABM and the other competitors. But today what I want to do is I want to bring Dennis up and let him have a couple minutes with you guys just to kind of say from his point of view what's going to make us the next group for you guys to have inside your buildings. Dennis?
Good afternoon. Thank y'all for giving us the opportunity to come and speak to you today. I'm just excited. When I came in the door today, I was just so excited to see a lot of the people that I've seen before when we worked here over 15 years in Hamilton County. And I want to tell you that what we have now planned with the gentleman that we have here, with the team that we have here, is to make sure that all the schools, all the management, all the administrators from the central office, We want to make sure that we are on point with everything that we need to do to get these schools clean and to take care of our staff. Our staff, what I'm talking about, is our frontline people who are out there working, doing it in the morning time, doing the evening time, working out there when we have snow on the ground, putting down their salt, when we're out there having a flood in the schools, going to make sure that that's taken care of, where the central office may not even know about it till the next day, because we are going to be boots on the ground, making sure all those things are taken care of without any words on their end. Because I know that's why you bring the company in that needs to be taking care of things without you having to do it yourselves. We've done it before, and with the team that we have now, and let me tell you, the one thing that I talked to them about when they asked me to come in is we need to have input. And I'm talking about input on the guys that are on the ground. We need input. We don't need you to come in and say, hey, we're going to do this and we're going to, no. Listen to what we're saying, and these guys are doing that. That's one reason I'm back. They asked me to come, and I said, I need to have everything on there. Transparency about what we need to do and how we're going to do it. Our custodians are the best custodian you have. They are the best. When it comes to, you know, you got to train them and show them. And once you train them, expect the best. There's no less. One thing I always told them, people always say, oh, custodians are on the bottom of the totem pole. We train them and we teach them and tell them, you're never on the bottom, because if you're on the bottom, I'm on the bottom. You're standing on my shoulders. We want to uplift you so that you can come and take my job, is what I always tell them. Take my job. I'm the district manager. I need you fighting out there every day to come get what I got. I'm okay with that, because that's what we want to do. And, you know, we want to make sure they understand. We care about them. We're going to show that. And we do, again, I don't want to keep rambling, but thank y'all so much for giving me an opportunity to speak to you.
Thanks, and I'll bring Scott back up to close for us.
And how do you follow that? So, thank you, Dennis. I was chosen to close, but you know, Dennis did a good job to do that for us. So, I will tell you, I started my career in banking years ago. I spent over a decade in it. And to move up in banking, for those of you who don't know, you interview for new jobs, you're trying to get new titles. It's the only way to make money. And so I had a lot of interviews in my day. And I always had one question prepped, and it was, hey, what don't I know? What should I expect? You know, where the body's buried, what's going to happen next, like what's going to hit me in the face on day one? And those leaders throughout my career always had that coach talk, you know, the coach speak of control the controllables, or you don't know what you don't know, and, you know, do your best, that kind of stuff. And I'm going to tell you, here I am again, interviewing for a job, and I'm not going to ask that question. I'm going to tell you that we know what we don't know. It's not an elephant in the room that we've been in Hamilton County. We know. We've been in this community. We're still in this community. And I know for a fact that we can do a good job for you guys. But I don't want you to take it from me. I said this last week in our committee meeting. I want you to call Jeff Luttrell in Wilson County and ask him why us and not them. I want you to call Corby King in Cookeville and ask him why us and not them. Half these districts, 5-6 years ago, we lost. In 4 years, we've gotten them all back. And we perform a daggum good job because of people like Dennis and people like Kyle. So don't take it from me. Don't take it from any of these guys up here. Take it from them. And if you need their numbers, you need their emails, I'll happily give them to you. They all know me, and they all know them, and they all know what kind of team we are. We wanted to go through this quickly because I know y'all have questions, and I know that's really important. So I'm going to leave this open to you guys for questions. Jonathan, do you want to kind of guide us through those? Yeah.
Well, actually, what we'd like to do, we're going to let both present, and then we're going to ask our questions after.
Oh, really?
So,
We got to go outside.
no, you don't want to? Okay.
You have to,
All right,
you
all
have
right.
to do it.
I'm sorry. So, Ben, you're up first.
First question is, what is the average pay for your custodial workers, and what benefits do you offer for these employees?
Sure. You know, the average that we have in our pay scale currently is around, I think, right at 1360. And what I would say is that as an organization, looking at everything, we did the wage surveys, we looked at it. We want to be very competitive, and there's some opportunities for us in the way we built our program to increase some of those wages in year 2, just so everyone knows. But what we wanted to do is make sure we provide a very competitive price in a competitive environment that is economical. We've also committed to matching anybody's pay. So if they're making that money now, we're going to match their pay. Okay, so if they're making more money than that, we're going to take a look at it. We also understand you got some areas that are going to be higher paid than others, some other areas where there's lower pay. So what we look at is we look at the program in its entirety, and we want to make sure that we're taking care of everybody. And one of the things that I've said in my philosophy is we're going to pay what it takes to get the people in here to do a bang-up job, no matter what. And so we're going to take that on. You know, obviously we provided a best and final. It provides less room for me to operate, but the truth is that our reputation in this environment is more important to me. And I'll tell you that you know, Kyle's, you know, we talk about local and stuff. Kyle's sister-in-law is a teacher at Eastlake, or she's the dean of students over there. You know, we're part of the community. Dennis has obviously been a part of the community. We're committed to doing whatever it takes from a wage standpoint to do the right things. But at the same time, I want to make sure the district understands that we have to be conscientious of the funding that you have and make sure that we can align your scope of work with what it costs out in the field. And so we believe that it's a competitive starting place, and we believe we got a plan to escalate those as we move into the out years. Yes, sir.
You mentioned salary, you didn't mention benefits. What benefits do the employees?
So we offer ACA compliant benefits to all of our employees. That's a standard. We are offering paid holidays and paid vacation to all of our staff here as well. We believe it's important to keep them, you know, going through all those times. So that'll be a part of our program, and some of that will be flexible for some of the incumbent people. We've actually had a conversation about even some of the people that worked for ABM prior to this contract and what that looks like for them from a vacation standpoint, you know, a tenure standpoint and whatnot. So, you know, Dennis said it best. We're going to take care of the people, because what we do know is that if we take care of our people, they're going to take care of us. And so that's our plan and that's our goal.
Are your vacations paid?
They are paid. Their 5 days is what they start with. That's typical in our industry, so they start with 5 days vacation.
What about healthcare?
They're offered the ACA compliant plans right out of the gate. Well, and we can offer them, you know, other plans, and you guys know there's some costs associated with those, and we can definitely have that conversation. But you know, we want to be cost effective in what we're providing the district.
Thank you.
Yes,
Jody?
sir.
You mentioned a dedicated recruiter.
Yes, ma'am.
So given our previous challenges with job vacancies and absenteeism, what measures will you implement to ensure that our buildings remain fully staffed consistently?
There's a couple things that we're doing. So obviously the recruiting is the biggest piece. I mean, and what we've done is that we have a dedicated recruiting team and a recruiting platform now. So what we don't have is we don't have our managers putting ads on Craigslist and in the newspaper looking for people. We have a professional organization internally that does that. And you know, what I would say is that because we're staffing to a full staffing level all the time and not trying to reduce staff and increase staff and reduce staff and increase staff throughout the season, we don't typically lose as many people, so we're much more consistent across the board. So I would tell you that, you know, we provide some services. I can give you some examples on these school districts that you see on the screen right now. Wilson County, we started that district. We were underfunded on the wages there. We increased the wages, I think, almost $2 an hour by the end of it. I'm working with the district and understanding what the costs are and what, you know, funding measures they had. They had an Amazon facility open, and they have an Under Armour facility that opened, so the wages have just skyrocketed in that market. We're 100% staffed as of today. If you look at Putnam County, I believe that we're like 2 positions short currently, and I think that we'll have those filled. What I would say is that we've got a pretty robust system for us to work with our teams. We're actually, Chris talked about it a little bit, the technology piece that we're leveraging. I would tell you it's probably the most proactive thing that I've seen out there. And what it allows us to do is, one, we get some notifications that people don't clock in. Okay, that's the first thing that happens. 2, the team's going to get some notifications on buildings that weren't scanned as being cleaned last night. We're not going to scan the whole building, but we're going to do wings of the buildings. So managers that are out there are going to have some instant information about, hey, this didn't get scanned last night. We better go check that out this morning, or send somebody over there to look at that school. And what that is a proactive way for us to manage our business. That's something that hasn't been around in our business at all. But I will tell you that I'm so excited about it. I told the committee I was ready to jump out of my chair because I want it everywhere. And so you guys hear my passion about just the people and you know, making sure that we're doing the right things, because I know that if we can fill the schools up, we meet your expectations, you guys are gonna be happy with us. And I want to come out and, you know, have great meetings with you about what we're doing great and what we need to improve on, not necessarily why are you 10 or 15 people short, or why, you know, where are your recruiters at? The recruiting department's dedicated, so I'm gonna have a dedicated recruiter that doesn't even answer to us specifically, answers to our recruiting team. They work with our team, buried in our office, they know exact positions, locations. We strategically source those people. So if you wanna know how that works, we can get into more details.
What about the absenteeism?
So typically what you see is that we have a call-out system, one, and two, what we do is we usually overhire by 3 or 4 people. So each of the managers will have 1 or 2 what I would call subs that work for them in general. Those people are gonna be deployed as you go out. And so you gotta think, you see roughly a 3 or 4% absenteeism rate. You know, at best, you see a 7 or 8% absenteeism rate at worst. Right, you gotta plan for some of that. Some of that is unforeseen and unplanned for. So you have the extra people, you deploy those effectively. What you also do is, because of the way our inspection system works and the increased management that we have, we can get to those schools, we can make some decisions, we can pivot resources much quicker than if you have less people in the market. So that's typically how we handle it. I would tell you that it's all about Dennis, his leadership, the teams that are out there, and really holding people accountable to what they're doing. And that's the secret, right? I mean, you can have all the people you want, but if they're not doing the right things every day, then it doesn't matter. So a lot of confidence in Dennis, a lot of confidence in Kyle. Just so you guys know, I've known Kyle for a number of years, and he lives about 10 houses away from me. So if he doesn't do it, I'm gonna be knocking on his door, just so you guys know. So.
Okay. Hi,
Hey, how are you?
I'm well.
Good.
You're right, sir. You don't have to ask that question because I was here the last time y'all were here. So, my question is, the current custodial vendor employs 336 staff members.
Sure.
How many employees will be allocated to serve the district under your proposal? That's part one. Then I got a
Okay.
part two
Sure.
to that.
Part one is 311 is what we priced, and that's working with Dennis and going through every building and making sure. We did provide pricing for a higher staffing plan. I believe it was 25 people more than that, 336 people. We did provide that pricing, but there's a few things that we think are critical that will help overcome some of that delta. I would tell you that I'm not sure if they've got 336 people every day. My goal is to have 336 or 311 people every day, right? I bet you they're probably closer to the 311 every day. That's what we're going to staff every day. So that would be the first answer to your question.
Okay, so then I have a question for y'all. If it's 336 currently, their contract or their proposal is for 311. If we don't technically maybe have 336 in the building every day, but we have 336 employees, what happens to those 25 employees?
I can answer
What,
some
what,
of that.
I'm not
too.
sure what you're asking.
So I'm saying, if we technically, I mean, he says he doesn't know if we have them in the building every day.
But they have, they're budgeted for that many.
Okay, but we don't
I
currently,
think you're
we're not.
asking,
I'm asking
is
like, is
anyone
anybody
gonna
gonna lose their
lose their job?
jobs?
Oh,
That's pretty much
oh.
what I'm asking
That's a good question. That's a good question. That's more of a question for the,
for them.
Here's what I'll tell you. Like, we're going to probably hire everybody up front, right? Because here's the deal. No matter what happens, is that we find that my big thing is that good leadership, the proper tools, the proper training can change a poor employee into an excellent employee, right? Proper leadership. And here's what I'll say. There's not been a contract that we've gone into where we didn't lose, 2 or 3% of the people right out of the gate because of background checks. And the reason why is because you don't run reoccurring background checks on every single individual. So you're gonna lose a couple people for some incidents that have occurred. And then two, what I'm gonna tell you is we're gonna hire all those people and we're gonna bring them in. And if you hold them accountable, and they don't want to be held accountable, they usually don't
Right,
last.
they weed themselves out.
They weed
Right.
themselves out. So,
Okay.
I mean, you can call, I got some other, we have other, clients I can give you names and phone numbers for if you'd like, and you can give them a call about how we performed on our start, what we did. I'll give you an example, it was Auburn. They asked us to hire an additional 35 people. We hired those additional 35 people that were on their staff, and those people were weeded out in the first 60 days of the contract. And some of those people they thought were gonna leave turned out to be excellent employees. Some of those other people, obviously didn't want to meet our expectations or our standard of what we expect of people, which is to do the right thing every day, treat everybody with respect. I mean, those are the most important things to me.
Okay.
So,
My part two to that question is, because we have been in contract with ABM before,
yes, ma'am.
and I've said this to my district leadership, so this is nothing new that they're not gonna hear. The companies change, right?
What do you mean?
But what I'm saying is, like, we had ABM.
Sure.
Then we had SSC.
Sure.
Then we had HSE. HES, than we had, before we had our own people.
Sure.
Now, we might could have you again, right?
Right.
But the staff never changes, per se, unless they leave, or
That's
not good
right.
performers, or turnover.
Right.
So what, I guess, what is ABM going to do different this time to change or to improve the staff efforts? And I heard Mr. Dennis, I know him and Clinton very well from my schools in District 5. And I know their work ethic, so I'm not questioning that, or any of our other staff. But I do know that oftentimes you can't be everywhere, and you can't have always, as much as you try to have a pulse on everything, and I'm in leadership, so I know this, you don't always have the pulse. And so what is going to change or be different to support the staff? Because the staff is the consistent factor, not the company. So what are you all gonna do different this time? Because you said you're different.
We are. We're
Right, so
extremely different.
Tell me a little bit about what makes you different in retaining good qualities, 311 all the time.
It starts with the culture, and it starts with me.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you that right now. And I'll say this, I think that you may underestimate the depth of my energy. I'm in a lot of places. These guys laugh at me, but you have to understand that I told the committee this, and I'm going to tell you guys this. I am 1,000% in.
Okay.
And I'm a load, and you're going to get all of me. So you hear my energy about this program and what we're doing. Like, we're going to install some technology and some tools for these teams like they've never seen and never been able to use before. These guys are walking around with iPads. They're going to have information that's live, that's impactful to them. They're going to understand what the principal surveys are, where the problems are in every building that they walk in, sitting on an iPad that they're carrying around with them. Okay? I think it's important that you guys understand that it's an evolution of what we are. You guys were here, 4 years ago when ABM was here, and I'd like to ask you, how many people in operations do you see that were here 4 years ago?
Oh, well, nobody, just Mr. Dennis and Clinton right now. Oh, and right here. Clay. Stop being here since 2014.
I like Clay. I like Clay a lot. I think
Yeah,
Clay,
I
Clay,
didn't want to forget him, but
yeah.
I'm just asking. 'Cause-
Listen, culture starts right here. If you guys want to know what the culture is, these guys, I have expectations beyond you guys could ever imagine for these guys. I mean, I've got them on committees, I got them organizing things, I got them being creative, I got them being innovative.
Okay.
And so I'm going to just say this right now. It starts with me, and it starts with these guys right here. And I don't know a group of people. I don't know a group of people that love each other more and care about each other more and are willing to support each other more. So the culture is where it starts for me. And I'll just say, they're my family. I know that you guys are all in this room together, and I said this before, like, I love these people. I walked out of our presentation prep and I said, I love each and every one of you. And I said, let's go do this. And I said, whatever happens, it doesn't matter to me. At the end of the day, what I want to do is I'm going to show up for you, I'm going to show up for them, and I'm going to tell you the culture is that different. And I will come to every school board meeting if I need to prove myself to you.
Don't say that, because some of my board peers might make you be here.
I hate.
But,
Listen.
but I understand. I'm with you. You selling.
I'm not selling.
I
Hey,
mean-
listen. You want to know the truth?
I mean,
know
I'm following you. We good. We good.
Okay.
Police?
I know you've mentioned a couple of things already, but what is your company's annual turnover rate, and what strategies do you have in place to retain your employees?
Oh my God, that's such a tough question to ask of a custodial provider because they all lie through their teeth. I mean, the truth is we lose 7 or 8% of our people every month. When I say 7 or 8%, it's not people. I said this the other day, it's positions. You keep the main group of your people. You're losing that bottom little churn that you're talking about. If you take 7 or 8% times 12 months, that's an 84% turnover rate. So if I'm going to stand here and tell you that I've got an 84% turnover rate, because that's the real number, that's not real, right? I'm actually turning probably like, after 60, 90 days, we turn maybe 15 or 20% of our staff. And it's usually still the bottom, it's still the same position. So we do a much better job of taking care of our people. And when I say that, it's been something that we've recognized. It's been something that as an organization we've taken a hard look at with our management team and saying, what can we do better? So I'll tell you that I hate that you guys are gonna miss it, but we have what we call Employee Appreciation Week. And the fun part is I buy about $1,000 worth of food gift cards. I buy about 30 TVs, and we go out to a bunch of accounts and we just start seeing people doing great things, and we hand them stuff. And we do it all week. And it's a bear, and I love it because I'm running around making people happy. And to me, it's the best thing. I was at a presentation with Clay because, Clay's our HR guy, and I'm there, and he's in the bathroom right before our presentation starts giving one of our employees that works for us a service, what was it, Clay? a challenge coin, because he was a former military guy. And he stood in there and was late, almost late to our presentation. And I tell you that, to me, that's who we are now. And who we were before, listen, they may have done a good job for a little while, and there's some challenges with COVID. I get it. I can't speak to any of it. I came from Texas. I was in Dallas at the time. But I'll tell you, for me, you're just not going to get a group of people that want this more for the right reasons, okay? And I think that's the biggest thing. So if you guys want to know why I want this, it's because I'm out to prove that we are who we say we are. And because of that, you're going to get the best of everything out of us as an organization.
Ben?
Thank you, Chair. So I, forgive my tardiness, but I was listening in, and it hit me a lot about the summer retention, keeping
Yes, sir.
all the people employed. We've had issues before with
Sure.
not only with the cleanliness of the buildings, but the way that you take care of your staff.
Yeah.
A lot of people didn't know that they were getting downsized. So I come to this with my question of another issue that kind of stems from that, with the summers and stuff is the overnight cleaning. And I know you've touched on it a little bit, but how do you specifically plan to address making sure that the overnight, that the buildings are cleaned and they're ready for our specifications in the morning?
During the summer or during the school year?
The full year.
Oh, during the school year. So, well, obviously, there's the span of control that we talked about. There's a reduction of schools that each manager has, okay? What that is, and I spent some time driving between schools, actually last week. And the reason why I'm doing that is I want to see what traffic patterns are like. Because let me just tell you, the interstate right here, right, or the 75 interchange, we left an hour and 45 minutes before, and it stopped. I was like, oh no, like somebody's going to get a helicopter out here to get me over there. But that's important to me, because to me, it's important not because of the reasons why you think it is. It's important because it allows the managers to actually have a life. Because if they don't, what happens is these guys are driving around like chickens with their head cut off trying to get to the next problem. So that's the first thing that we did. The second thing that we're doing is this technology piece. And when I'm going to talk about, I'll just talk about it briefly, but we're using QR codes for having our leads in the building scan places that they've cleaned and checked at night. Okay, what that does is that allows the managers in the morning to get an exception report. So an exception report will say, oh, well, look, guess what? They didn't scan this wing over at the high school. I better get over there right now and make sure it's done. Okay, so this is a proactive process that nobody else has got. And I know the people outside, like when I say I know them, I know them personally for my whole life kind of thing. So I've worked with them before. So I will tell you that they don't have it. I know what they have. I could probably do their presentation for them because I've worked with them before, just so you guys know. And I'm not trying to be funny, I'm just being honest with you. There's only a few companies that can do this job the way that you guys want it done. I don't know if they're one of them right now. I don't know what they have. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what their structure is. But I am 1,000% confident that this team can do it and do it to not only meet your expectations, but more than likely exceed them for the most part.
So just to tag off that a little bit, your nights are always harder than the days.
Mm-hmm.
You said you hire a few extra bodies. Are they a few extra bodies that are there for, most call-outs happen during the day,
Mm-hmm.
but no-shows happen at night.
That's correct.
So are you going to have extra bodies there for filling in at night?
We typically, well, we're going to have, like I said, we have a couple of extra people for each manager. Do you understand? And you know how each market lays out, each region lays out. Those decisions will be made then. We talk about things we know, things we don't know. What we don't know is who's going to call out today or tomorrow. I can't just figure that out. We haven't been able to figure that out for the life of me. But what I would tell you is that getting notifications that people aren't clocking in, the no-call, no-shows, right? Understanding, like, if you have your roster on your iPad for that building, like as soon as they don't call and you make a phone call and you say, hey, day person missed on Tuesday, we're gonna have that person work, 4 extra hours to help pick up some of their hours this week. That's called being smart and managing correctly, and that's what we're gonna do. So the technology piece allows us to make better decisions quickly while we're in the field, okay? And that's how we're going to overcome a lot of the challenges that you've had. So what I would say is that, is it foolproof? It's not. Are we going to have issues? We will. But the difference between us and everybody else is how we respond to those issues. Call these clients and ask them, They weren't perfect, I promise you. None of them are. And I'm not going to stand up here and tell you that we're going to be perfect on day one. We may not be perfect on day 60, but I'll tell you that we're going to keep working to get there, and eventually we will, and you guys will have the program that you're proud of. It won't be something that you talk about. It'll be something that happens behind the scenes, and it'll be Hamilton County can focus on the things that you guys are supposed to focus on, which is educating the children.
All right, thank you. Larry?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You're just like any other school district. We have, a lot of schools that are brand new, and we have many schools that are decades old. The school I represent, well, 3 of the schools I represent are 50, 60, almost 70 years old. So we want to make sure that, our floors are properly maintained, not only during the year, but especially in the summer, when we can do, the stripping, the re-wax, the seal, all of that. So help us understand your process for that in terms of, because it's different to deal with the newer schools than it is with the older schools, because
Sure.
they've been there so long.
We have to look at every building individually, and the goal is to bring that building up to the highest standard that we can bring it up. So there's obviously been some technology changes in floor finishes, which I'm not sure if you guys are aware of, but there's been a PFA mandate, so they're having to get rid of all the forever chemicals that are in floor finishes. Well, the forever chemicals in floor finishes are the leveling agents in floor finishes. The leveling agent in floor finish is what makes it shiny, all right? So now we've got all new floor finishes. To give you guys an idea, at Mount Juliet Middle School, we're currently having one of our vendors come in and do a demo on a new product that they say is twice as hard, lasts 3 times as long, you don't have to buff it. And I'm like, if it does this, we're putting it in every classroom in the country, right? This is what we're doing. And on top of that, I'm gonna try to convince somebody to just look at the chairs and make sure that all of them don't scratch all the finish off the floor, right? Because that's typically what happens in classrooms. So what I would tell you is that our goal is to do the most innovative things that we can. We're gonna go to every building, we'll take a look at it. You're probably gonna have a mixture of VCT, asbestos, LVT, terrazzo, carpet, wood floors even in some of your more aged spaces. So we understand how to service all of it. We do gym floors everywhere, just so you guys know. We can do them in-house. We have contractors that can do them. We have contractors that do NBA floors. We also do them ourselves. So if you want to save money or you want to, professionally done restripe floor, we've got contractors that can handle that for you. So what I would tell you is we're going to go into every building, and I know this. If the floors are clean, the bathrooms are clean, all the trash is taken out, it's like half of the concerns that you get, right, out of schools. That's just the way that it works. Bathrooms are clean and stocked, floors are clean and shiny, and the people are there. We're half the battles there. So, I mean, we can go through the whole floor care program, but it's going to take us a little bit of time to recognize, and Dennis knows it more than I do right off the top of my head, but the flooring services in every building. And the deal is we use Johnson's professional products, diversity products, and we use basically the best lines of chemicals and floor finishes there are, the best equipment we can buy, and we use. People talk about automated stuff. I got on a call with a robotics guy earlier today, trying to understand where they're the most effective in K through 12 schools, right? Just because you have children in your buildings, and I can't have a machine running around with a 12-year-old writing it, because it'll get up on the news like we will today. So, yes, sir.
Y'all don't have that machine that runs by itself, right? Like at Sam's and Costco?
I don't like those. So, I mean,
Yeah,
yeah.
because that scares kids.
It does. It scares me with the kids.
Do you have one at home?
No, but if my child runs at Sam's, he's 5. It's been a long time in school.
Steve?
Yeah, you kind of touched on the employees during the summer months. Is that a full staff
So
all summer?
here's what we've done, and I'll just tell you guys, 'cause I'm being 100% transparent with you. I'm trying to save as much money with you guys as I can. So I looked at every school district that we have, because we pivoted after COVID to not cutting people loose, okay? So what you guys got to understand is that you're going to lose between 5 and 7% of your staff every summer anyways, because they have children at home that they can't watch. Do you understand? So what happens is those people say, hey, listen, I can't do this. My kid's at home from school, so can I come back in the fall? So what we do is we put them on temporary seasonal layoff. We actually keep up with those people. It's typically around 5%. So on 311 people, 5% is roughly 15 people, right? So we've basically reduced your cost by those 15 people over the summer, and that's how we get to this number. Now, what we aren't going to do is fire anybody. So here's what I'm going to tell you. If nobody quits or nobody decides they're leaving for the summer, we're just going to keep them. So what I've done is I've taken what I consider a very nominal risk on a budget for my team to operate within, but I don't hold them to that. What I hold them to do is I tell them we got to get the schools done in a timely fashion. And your summers have now moved from, well, it was 75 days to like 35 days. You got summer school in most of them, and there's kids running around in the other half of them. So it's a challenging process for us. So we've just not cut people loose, and we understand that people are going to take more vacations beyond what they've got typically. People just take some time off during the summer. So we accommodate some of that, but at the same time, our goal is to keep everybody working.
Fall breaks, spring breaks, Christmas breaks?
I mean, if anything, you see, I mean, it's the same thing. I mean, honestly, you may see just maybe a few hours, if we get everything done, this being reduced, but we don't send people home. They're coming to work to do everything every day. I mean, if there's nothing to do and we got people sitting in the conference rooms, we end up sending them home. If you
There's
understand.
always something to do.
We understand. But, yes, sir.
So you listed several things that you provide, and so my question is, how does your company manage and allocate custodial supplies to ensure that our schools are adequately stocked? 'Cause I didn't hear you say toilet tissue and soap a few minutes ago.
We're going to order, we usually try to keep a 2-week extra stock. I don't like to order. Companies like to order at the beginning of the month, right? Because they're on these monthly cycles, right? We try to order in the middle of the month. That's what I do. And the reason why I do that, we keep a 2-week extra. You order in the middle of the month. What ends up happening is you get to the end of that next month, it's not becoming an issue. The reason why you see issues with companies ordering is because they're trying to make their monthly numbers. And so I just remove that as a hurdle for my team, and we just order in the middle of the month. So if you ever get close to running out, we typically just order the product. We have relationships with every major distributor in the country. So we've never had an issue getting product, even during COVID. We actually procured, I don't know how many gloves from China at the time, to make sure that we had PPE, masks, and gloves for all of our team members. So we've got a national team that negotiates every contract with all the manufacturers, and so we get the best pricing, the best everything, and that's one of the benefits of doing business with a large organization like this. We put our money where our mouth is on that.
So do you utilize technology as well by scanning and seeing what's available in the school for the beginning of the week? And how does that work?
We haven't leveraged that yet, but we've thought about something like that. And what you typically see is that what I've been looking more towards is they have smart dispensers, right? And they also have what's called occupancy sensors for bathrooms. That's really the way the technology is going for me. And what that means is you can start counting how many people go in and out of a bathroom. And if you can count how many people going out of the bathroom, you start to get some data about how often it needs to be serviced, okay? And what we're trying to do is we're trying to figure out, okay, well, if you got a high school and you've got 75 kids that go in and out of a bathroom by 10 o'clock in the morning, it probably needs to be serviced more than once, right? And what the problem you have is that custodian is typically servicing another bathroom that may only be serviced, been used by 15 people, right? Because they're on a route. So what we want to do is really pivot some of our people to make sure that we're doing some of those things and checking those spaces. Because typically what you see is it's not that we necessarily don't refill them, it's that they're half full at the end of the night. And how do you maximize that usage throughout the next day, right? So what I want to make sure we do is that, one, we're going to make sure that all the managers are going to have all the technology they need to ensure that they have all the stuff that they need in the space, okay? That's something that we can take a hard look at. I haven't used technology for that piece yet. Typically, you see a much more manual process with the supply piece because it moves in and out so quickly, if that makes sense. So by the time you scan something, you fill up 3 bathrooms, that's 3 cases of paper kind of situation. So that's a moving target for us, but here's what I would say. I'm committed to making sure that your schools never run out of paper or soap or any cleaning chemicals that you have. You'll never hear that from my team.
Okay, one more thing. You offered a lot of client emails and phone numbers to call. May I have that information?
You absolutely. We'll get that over to you, Scott. We'll get you an email, and you can definitely reach out to any of the people. I've got other names that aren't on that list. If you want to reach out to anybody else, there's a number of people. We just obviously have included the people in Tennessee here that are, regionally. So.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So you talked a lot about your management structure as far as like the 8 zones and everything. Can you do another overview and of your staffing structure, and how will you manage clear communication with district staff and school staff?
So there's a couple pieces. We could talk about the technology on it. Let me just make sure I answer your first question. So obviously we have 8 zone managers that we have planned. Obviously a district manager and assistant manager. Typically you see the assistant manager working nights, right? But you have the day manager working the days. It's kind of the leader of the shop. As far as communication in the building, that's the structure that we've originally come up with. We think that that's the right number of schools. If you have the manager out, we've got the other managers to help kind of, fill in some gaps so we don't have any coverage issues. As far as communication with the schools, so obviously we're going to have formal communication with the administrative team through CBR, the client business reviews, where we bring all this data that we're talking about together. The one thing that we have introduced is we've introduced a QR code, and so we're still working with schools to understand how they want to leverage it. And so what we've done is this QR code is kind of a work order system for us. And what they do is we can put them in teachers' lounges so it doesn't go to the principal, or we can put them with the principal or in the principal's office, somewhere where it's convenient for people to get to. However they want to handle it, they can scan that QR code, and the technology piece that we're talking about creates work orders for the managers in that zone to Dennis and to whoever the assistant manager is immediately. And then we start tracking all those work orders on our side. And it's a simple process because instead of creating like a work order in your system where you have to log into whatever work order platform you're using and fill out all the data fields, it's pretty simple. You scan the QR code, it takes you to the page, right? It says what's your issue, what's your school, what's your issue, what's the stuff. You fill out all the stuff, and it automatically gets logged into our iPads kind of thing. And then we can track those issues and reach back out. But we think that what that does is, one, it kind of unburdens the principal of dealing with some of that stuff, right? And two, it provides some immediate action with names for our teams to go out there and deal with it. Because let me just say, you get a phone call from the school that says this bathroom wasn't clean. We don't know who, when, where, why, or what. And we usually go and we're trying to solve and then fix, right? And then what we want to do is provide a permanent fix. Well, now we get some more information right out of the gate. So if a teacher says, hey, this bathroom wasn't done at this time, we can actually get their name and we can go talk to the teacher and we go have that conversation with them and say, hey, what happened in this bathroom? Was it not clean this morning? We're going to make sure that the staff gets with it. And what ends up happening is that we can put that on another cycle where we have to come back and check that again. You understand what I mean? To verify that it was corrected. So the technology piece is pretty powerful. I don't want to talk too much more about it, but I think it's important as you ask some of those questions.
Well, it also will give you consistent data if there's a recurring problem in a specific building that, that needs to be addressed. That I think that previously, especially with overnight staff, a lot of stuff has been falling through the cracks. I've talked to principals, folks who said, like, our day person's great, but they have to come in here and do half the stuff that the night staff was supposed to do. And there was no way to, hold them accountable with actual data. And I think that's something that's really exciting to have it, accessible to everyone. There's the accountability piece, but also it gives you data about your employees as well.
To me, if you get 10 from one school, and we got a problem in school. I mean, that's how I look at it. So, and what we do is what I try to do is it's like a SEAL Team 6 kind of walkthrough. So if you get so many, if you're beyond a certain threshold, guess what? Everybody's coming to walk. We got to see what's going on in that building. Right? So what it does is before it becomes a problem for the district administration, we usually see these little things start to happen. So that's been the hardest challenge that we've had in our field, is to get realistic, valuable data live from our teams, right? Live from the schools, and how do we communicate back, right? So basically, they do that work order, they can put an email in there, we can respond to the email, we can actually communicate with people, and we can fix the issue and provide a permanent solution.
All right, thank you. I have one last question, just to clear. I saw your different districts. Where does the Highway 58 schools and Hunter Road schools fall? Are they a part of the Tyner district or what? I don't
know how we're going to have it zoned just yet. We had the zone we were looking at it, but we don't know. I mean, it's not permanent until we get in here, right? And listen, the deal with us is that we have a plan, but we're going to be very flexible in adjusting our plan. Because here's the deal. I may hire a manager that's great, right? But really can only handle 6 schools. I may have to give somebody else one and somebody else one, right? So what we want to do is we just want to understand what the strength is that we get on our teams. Those 8 managers, they're all going to be different, right?
All right, so it's nothing set in stone.
There's nothing set in stone.
All right, thank you. Ms. Thomas?
Oh, I'm sorry, that
Oh,
should be
okay.
on.
Mr. Doherty?
Yep, thanks, Chair. It's a 3-year contract, right?
Was,
It, 4-year contract? Okay. And you had a slide that was helpful. It was kind of like a breakdown of your cost model,
yes, sir.
which I appreciate seeing, especially on the margin side.
It is.
I don't know where you guys are in the preliminary contract discussions, but what's the annual rate increase that you guys are trying to position or is being positioned?
We typically position a 3% increase, and we try to provide that. Now, we typically ask for a 3% increase. I will tell you, it's been challenging over the last couple of years. You guys have probably experienced some of that coming out of COVID, though, when you're having 20% wage increases on our hourly staff. And so I would tell you that we've always positioned it that way. But if there's a federal mandate or another pandemic and the wages go to $27 an hour, I'll just be honest with you, it's not something that we can afford. It's not something that we price. This is a very tight job. You're looking at, I don't know, 3 or 4%, profit for us across the board, and the cost of money is very expensive. So what I would tell you is we've given you guys what I consider the most cost competitive, effective program that I can price. And I priced most of his jobs, this guy standing outside for years, so I know exactly what's going on with it. So it's the one thing that we know how to do. I also would tell you that more is better. I mean, I'll tell you that all day. 25 people, just so you know, Krista, is better than, 336 is better. We give you guys a number for that. I was also asked, how come they're paying more? How come they're doing those things? It's because I've added all these other things that I think are important. And not only I think they're important, I think they're very impactful for our ability to deliver. And I'd much rather feel strongly that we can deliver the program than have a bunch of people that don't have any direction. So that's how, we developed our program.
So 3%.
What was that?
So 3%.
Yes, sir.
The district is, I think, in the RFP, in the terms and conditions.
The 2%?
Is a max, so
Yeah, we
we would
need to.
negotiate, have a conversation.
So potentially it's going to land anywhere between 2 and 3%.
Yes, sir.
Feasibly.
Yes, sir.
Right. If we agree, right. Hypothetically speaking, of course. Yeah, so that's a great metric, and that's a key one too, and then oftentimes can be overlooked, particularly with contracts of this size. Can you talk about whether, let's say it's 2.5% on a $13 million contract, that's $336,000 year-over-year increase on a 3-year or 4-year term, that puts us, what, $1.2 million over where you're coming in at today.
Right.
So it's a fair call out. But I appreciate you guys coming in, and I appreciate you bringing your team. It shows a lot about your, how you guys view this opportunity, so thank you all.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Jones?
So, what is your plan, I guess, or how are you all going to impact our local economy other than just hiring our staff? Like, is there a connecting piece there? Like, how are you supporting us locally?
Well, I mean, as far as community engagement, like that's a big piece for me. Supporting local economy, that's.
Well, community engagement.
Yeah. So there's a couple things that we do. One, we offer all of our management team a free day off to go and donate their time to any community engagement. The other things that we do, and this is actually a big thing for me, is we get all of our managers together annually in all of our school districts, and we try to do a big project for them, whether it be fixing a playground or doing something. And I usually send some money down, and we do buy mulch or we do something. And for me, what it typically involves is like beautification of schools. That's what I like to do the best. So we go out to, like, let's say the entrance of one of your, like, let's say we go to Howard High School, and we go out there, the entrance, we put 600 flats of seasonal color around the building and just do some mulch and make the school look beautiful for, the beginning of school. Those are the kinds of things that we want to do for the community. We think it's important, one, and two, the camaraderie that's built with my team. And usually the customers are saying, hey, you guys buy all the stuff, we're going to come out there and help you. And we go out there, and our employees usually come out and help. We think it's a great way to do it. As a matter of fact, we actually in Dallas, in Plano, not in Plano, in Louisville ISD, we used to do a barbecue and do the same thing. So we spent about $1,000 on hamburgers and hot dogs. We had, I think, 300 employees there, 320-something employees there. And we had one of our managers had a pull-behind smoker, and he'd bring that smoker out there and cook hamburgers and hot dogs for everybody while they were out there doing it. So there's pictures. They do it in Metro Nashville too. There's pictures of all that stuff. We can provide that if y'all want to see some of it. It's real. I told you, because that energy that I've got, it just doesn't go away, Krista. So I'm always thinking about something to do, and those are things that we do. Yes, ma'am.
All right, I don't see any others lit, so thank you very much. And board, you want to take about a 3-minute break while the other group's setting up? Sure. All right.
And thank you guys so much for your time today. And
Thank you.
the only thing I'll say is that there's nobody in the country that wants this more than us. Right, Kyle? I just want to make sure I say that right, 'cause I kept saying it wrong the other day. So thank you, guys.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
it. Do I need to point this anywhere? Just it. I got you. There we go.
We asking the same question? Yes.
All right, everybody's back, and we're ready for HES, Facilities Management. So you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, sir. Good to meet you all. Good to be here tonight. We're very thankful for the opportunity to come and present our custodial solution and plan to you, and really tell you a little bit more about who we are at HES and about our team here that will each play vital roles in supporting your account. I know some of you sat in on our meeting last week, so you're going to see some of the same things we showed you last week, but it kind of tells the story of who we are and our plan for Hamilton County Schools. I want to introduce the team that I have here with us. I'm going to first start with David Helton. I'm going to get out of your way because I kind of blocked the view a little bit. We'll start with David Helton. David is one of our executive VPs in our company. He's a co-founder of our company. He's the H in HES. He has over 50 years of experience in this industry. He's got relationships across the state, across the country that he's developed because he does what he says. And David does a great job for our company. Next, we've got Adam Miles. Adam is our SVP of Business Development. Adam's worked in every facet of this industry. He's been in operations, he's been in sales, and now he heads up our business development team. Adam sold large accounts all across the Southeast. And Adam and I kind of identified and targeted your account about 16 months ago, and we've been building a plan to present to you tonight and a team to present to you tonight. Next, we have Sherry Clendenin. Sherry is our Director of Recruiting in the state of Tennessee. She's one of the stars of our company. She leads a team of 10 recruiters that will recruit to this account every single day. Next, we have Josh Arnold. Josh is our Regional VP of Operations for Tennessee. He started and run multiple large accounts across the state, including Metro Nashville, Williamson County, and Shelby County Schools. He's a perfect fit. He understands Tennessee business, understands operations in Tennessee. He's been doing it for 12 years just in this state. Next, we have George Donald. George is our proposed Hamilton County coordinator. He'll be your on-site management every day. George has over 30 years of experience. He started working for David in 92. Started working for David in 1992, and this job's taking him all across the country. He's managed large accounts like the City of Philadelphia, Shelby County Schools, SMU, and now this job's bringing him back to his home in East Tennessee where his family is. He's going to be living here. He will be the day-to-day operations manager for you. And then myself, never like to talk about yourself, but I'm Brandon McCormick, again, VP of Business Development for Tennessee. Again, we identified your account as a target for about 16 months ago and have been working to this moment, building a plan. I've attended about 10 of your school board meetings just to get knowledge of the district and understand a little bit more about what your all's needs are and how we can help you. I'm going to tell you a little bit about HES. HES is a Tennessee-founded company. We're headquartered in Knoxville, Tennessee, about an hour and a half from this office. That office will support your account every day. At HES, we only focus on educational facilities. We don't do any commercial business, strictly education facilities every day. We clean about 25 million square feet every day in Tennessee and 200 million square feet nationwide. We have over 155 educational partners in 28 states. We have 13,000 team members and 3,000 here in the state of Tennessee. We've transitioned over 60 accounts from national providers just over the last 5 years, including your current provider and your past provider. We also are privately owned and supported by private equity. We are not beholden to any shareholders, not beholden to any stockholders. We're completely beholden to our educational partners. And as you can see on the screen, all the logos, we support education in Tennessee. We support TOS. We're a platinum member of that. We're a gold member of TSBA. We believe in education in Tennessee. Next up, this is our corporate org chart. This is our SVPs and RVPs. All these people, most of the people on this chart will support your account daily. A lot of them work in our corporate office in Knoxville, and they'll be here to help every day. I'm now going to pass it over to Adam Miles to talk about our culture.
Thank you, Brandon, and thank you, Board, for the opportunity to come and share our vision and our plan with you all for what the custodial partnership between HCS and HES could look like. And for us, that critical word is culture. And we feel like we are indeed the right fit for Hamilton County Schools. As Brandon alluded to a moment ago, early on we identified Hamilton County Schools as a key target for us as a Tennessee-based company. And with some digging, we realized that really truly our mission and vision as a company really well aligns with Opportunity 2030, the vision that you guys have for your school system. So we feel like as you look to the future and as you look forward, we want to be that critical partner because we feel like our mission and vision well aligns. And this little quote here that I thought was kind of neat is, because the reality is if you get the culture right, all the other stuff usually takes care of itself. As you can see in our manager, our manager outfits, culture wins. We feel like it's critical to get the buy-in from the community, from the management team, from the employees, from the teachers. Everybody has to be pulling in the same direction for this partnership to work. And we feel like we have the blueprint and the team that can do that. This is our proposed management by school. Basically, it starts with our Senior Vice President of Operations for the Southeast, Scott Zimmerman, and then followed by Josh Arnold, who's our Regional Vice President over the state of Tennessee. And just under Josh is George Donald, who's here tonight. George is the proposed Hamilton County Director for HES. And George's team would be supported by 2 local transition managers that would then transition into quality control managers after the initial transition takes place because they're local. One lives here in Hamilton County and one lives just up the road in Loudoun County. So it's good that we can pull those resources. In addition to that, we're going to have that administrative assistant and that recruiter who's going to report to Sherry Clendenin out of our Knoxville office. She's going to be one of 10 recruiters in the state of Tennessee that falls under Sherry's purview, all of whom are going to be dedicated to recruiting constantly talent for Hamilton County in our partnership. We also have 2 proposed zone managers that are going to basically report to George Donald, and they're also going to have oversight over 4 account managers. And each of those 4 account managers is then going to have a cluster of facilities that we feel like are kind of geographically broken up across the district. It's not necessarily gospel at this point. We feel like there probably will be some tweaking to do, but the optic there is that each account manager is going to be accountable for a book of business. Because when we find that ownership there, we feel like that there's more buy-in from the manager, from the team, from the principals, and all the points of contact. So that's going to be the proposed structure. And in addition to that, we obviously have the corporate support, the 10 recruiters, the HR support, and the payroll support out of our Knoxville office. And then a little bit more about the management overview because I think that that's going to be critical for this partnership. And Josh Arnold and I have known one another since we were 8 years old. Went to grade school together, played on some Little League baseball teams together, and not too long ago he showed me a team picture of when we were like 9 years old, and it was just pitiful. But we've known each other a long time, and I want to say that to say this. Josh is one of the hardest working guys I know. When we were in high school, when I was out being a typical teenager and playing sports, Josh was working 2 jobs, one before school, one after school. He did that all the way through college, put himself through college, and that work ethic that Josh has poured over into his teams. I think he's a fantastic manager, and I really, really hope we get the opportunity to show our stuff here because I know he'll make an impact. And then secondly is George Donald, who's been in this business for 34 years. Started his career in East Tennessee. It took him to Philadelphia Public Schools. It took him to SMU in Texas, to Memphis Shelby County Schools, and everywhere in between. And now George is ready to get back home where he wants to be. So we're excited to have George here. I want to talk a little bit about the culture and how we're going to manage the employees. And that's going to be critical is managing the attendance. So we have that centralized call-out system that every employee is going to have access to. So for any one reason or another, sickness, family emergency, they're going to call this hotline. It's going to go directly to our on-site administrative assistant, who's then going to dispatch that all the way out to the account management level team, which is then going to prompt a fill-in. So what we'd have done there with our proactive staff to our management plan, we're going to overhire by 10%. We're going to overhire. We're going to have a floating pool of 10% of new hires because that's going to reduce those last-minute shortages of perhaps someone had a family emergency that happened at 6 a.m. and they just didn't have an opportunity to pick up the phone and call. we're going to have that staff to plug and play. That's going to ensure our day and night coverage. Additionally, we're going to identify at least 10% of the existing workforce who might work in the daytime that wants to get some extra hours in the evening, and vice versa. So collectively, we feel like somewhere around 20% of a labor pool is what we're going to have access to make sure there's no outages in the schools, because ultimately it's not your fault when we have a sickness. It's on us to get those people replaced, and we certainly plan to do that. And lastly is our employee incentive program. We want them to want to work for HCS. We want them to enjoy working for HCS. We've earmarked $85,000 a year for employee incentives. The goal there is to raise and improve company morale, build the culture and the buy-in. We'll have quarterly drawings where they can get HCS swag, win some electronics, gift cards. We do Employee of the Month, Employee of the Year, and we also have gatherings for our team members. We have a Thanksgiving, or we'll have Christmas, or we'll have a back-to-school barbecue with the Dunkin' booth. Just some ways to build rapport for that team to again, circle back to building that culture. Talk a little bit about our proposed wages, which I think is critical. So let me tell you how we validated those wages. We use a third party called the Economic Research Institute. We pull that market data and we compare it with existing openings in and around the area. We also use talent.com, govsalaries.com, and ZipRecruiter. So using that data, we believe that the wage rate we're proposing between $14 and $16.50 is north of market in Hamilton County, because we want to be able to recruit, but we also want to be able to retain employees, because having an employee that gets the buy-in and has that training is going to be critical to the success and the transition, as well as the long-term in the schools. So we want to make sure that we're paying respectable wages to our employees so they want to come to work for HCS. Real quick story, after transitioning Cleveland State just down the road from a previous provider, we felt like all the employees were grossly underpaid. So we identified at least $1 raise for everyone in that partnership. So they got that wage increase, and now the employee turnover has remained under 5% since we got in there, which is fantastic in our industry. And also, we understand that Hamilton County is a wide and vast school district, and there's certain pockets that are tough to get folks to come work to, and others may not be as difficult. So what we anticipate doing is at least $3 north of what we're proposing here for those hard to staff areas, because again, that's not y'all's fault that these are hard to staff areas. That's on us. And that's the homework that Brandon and myself and others have done leading up to this moment. So wanted to just speak on that very quickly. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hand it over to Sherry Clendenin, who's going to talk about recruiting, our recruiting plan, what we're going to do for the long term and going forward. Sherry?
Hello, everybody. So again, I am Sherry. I've been in this industry for quite some time. I've worked for David for a little over 20 years, so don't do the math. But I've worked for him for a long time because I believe in him. I believe in what he stands for. So we're really excited about the opportunity to bring that to Hamilton County as well. I do oversee our human resources and recruiting team that will be for Tennessee, just Tennessee as well. We have 10 recruiters in addition to our HR staff and a recruiting manager. We will add additional staff to that. You will have a recruiter that will live here in Chattanooga that will work out of our office here that will be dedicated just to you. Those 10 additional recruiters we have in Knoxville are in addition to that. So we will have one that will be here that will do nothing but Chattanooga. So we use lots of resources for that. We use all of the social media things, including Indeed, LinkedIn, Facebook, all those kind of sites. Our onboarding tool there, we can go and look for people who may not actively be looking for a job, but may have in the past looked for a job in the industry. They could be looking for construction cleanup jobs, or maybe they were looking for jobs in hotels. So we're able to reach out to some of those people and draw people in that may not necessarily know we're looking to hire people. We also have an incentivized referral program. So those employees who are already working for us, they want good people to come work for them in their school. So if they know somebody that's going to be a good worker and they've got an opening at their school, they refer that person to us. Once we've hired that person and they get through their 90-day probationary period, we do give incentives to those employees. So we give those as a bonus on their check. You know, cash hits pockets really well, so it works out really well, and those employees, the good employees, bring on other really good employees. We will use career centers, unemployment offices. We do not leave stones unturned. We have stood in parking lots and handed out flyers if we need to. We're gonna find the people, and we're gonna overstaff this area like we've been talking about. So a couple of our benefits that we have on here, just so that you know, our full-time employees are offered benefits as far as medical, dental, vision, life insurance. We have disability prescription. We have just about any kind of benefit you can think about like that for them. Something we are really proud of is that we offer a free life insurance to all of our full-time employees. So that's regardless if they take our insurance policy or not. We really want them to log on, get that information, and at least, you know, choose that designee to be their beneficiary for that, regardless if they want anything. Multiple ways they can sign up for those benefits. They'll get information as soon as they come on board on how they can sign up for that. They can go to a website, or we have an app, or we have a call center where they can call in and someone will walk through every benefit option with them and explain all of that to them at, you know, at their level, because sometimes it's a little overwhelming to look at that on a website or something and not understand what some of those policies do. So we do have a group of specialists who will walk through every option with them. We have a 401k option as well for the full-time employees. In our payroll, we do direct deposit or a pay card. We understand that some employees do not have checking accounts or savings accounts, so we will offer that pay card for them, and that money will go on the pay cards just like a debit card that they would get. We also offer a daily pay option, so our pay periods are every 2 weeks, which I'm pretty sure, just based on previous jobs that we have worked with your previous vendor, I believe we're on the same pay periods. I don't think your people will see a lapse in time at all. We're paid every 2 weeks on Friday, just the same as they are. But we do offer the daily pay option. So if they have an emergency, this daily pay option will allow them to take up to 40% of their pay pre-pay period. So most of those options are free. Depending on what they're needing. If they need something in immediate, there may be a small charge for that, but most of those, if they want it within a day, it's a free service for them. That daily pay option does also give them access to a little bit of other things. There's some financial counselors there that will help them learn how to save. If they need help on raising their credit score, those counselors will help them, and that is all included free of charge to those employees. So it gives them a lot of ways to kind of help their financial future. So we want to invest in that with their employees, to invest in their future with them. Let's see. I think we've got all that. This is just a little bit about our training here. So all of our training, we will have an initial onboarding with all of our employees and do initial training on that orientation day. But then we have a 45 and 90-day review period for all of our employees. So any new employee after that 45 day will get a review, as well as 90 days. This is our training path to success here. So we have laid out each day. Like day 1, you're going to learn about these things. Day 2, you're going to learn about these things. And we go through that process with each of our new hires. We do also have an app here that all of our managers will have access to, our safety ops. It is a proprietary app for HCS, and it will have our training cards. As you can see, it's a lot more detailed than these, but it'll show you a couple of the things here, the training cards. So for any job that they need, they can pull up that training card. They can pull up a training video. So once these people have been trained on something, if we find that something's not being done correctly, or we're missing something, or we want to do a little extra training, the manager can just pull that up on the phone there and do training right on the spot, some retraining if needed. So that app goes over really well with these employees. It also includes our safety. So in that app, they can pull up any of our safety standards. It has the SDS sheets for any of the supplies that they're using. So if they need to look at that for anything, all of that is included in this app. And all the managers on site will have that. So it will, it really cuts down on our workplace safety and our compliance with all of that. It gives them real-time progress in the tracking, and we do have it in multiple languages. Right now, the app in most areas have English and Spanish. We do have some areas like in Duval where we have seven different languages that we have that in if that need is something that we need around here. So we'll have that so that all the employees will be able to understand that. And we have noticed it has really cut down on our workplace incidents because the managers will have that first report of injury on their phone. They can fill that out. It will give them the closest location if that employee needs to be seen, or a nurse hotline, whatever, depending on what this instance is. It will give them all that information in real time on their phone.
Thank you, Sherry. We'll talk a little bit about the operations now. Biggest part of our operation is communicating with the stakeholders of the schools and with you all as a board. But most important is our face-to-face meetings with our managers. They are available 24/7, 365. They have got to be in close communication with each and every principal in their book of business, which would be those 8 to 10 buildings we've got outlined for them. Also, our inspections that we're going to go in a little bit more detail on the next slide. But we require 10 inspections per day from every manager, so 50 a week from every one of them. May sound like a lot, but it just takes a couple minutes to go in, identify rooms from top down, from light lenses to pencil sharpeners to trash cans and floors. So it really gives us an idea of how everything's going as far as progress in the operations. We can set a threshold on that so that we get notified and get alerts so that we can go identify any issues. Also, the monthly report cards that we will ask the principals to fill out gives us a lot of feedback, obviously, and lets us know what they think of us. You'll see on the right there's an example of our report card. It's got all A's on it. I mentioned this in our meeting the other day. This is more like a temperature gauge. We don't, if we get all A's at a school, we don't think we're perfect there. We know we're not. If we get all F's, it may not be terrible, but it obviously tells us there's a problem that we need to alert and get on. So we don't put everything in that. It's just somewhat of a gauge. And then our BVRs, just our business value review meetings that we'll have with you all. We like to do twice a year. We can do more than that, but we really want to do twice a year just to meet and discuss the things that have taken place. This is the quality assurance. It's Smart Inspect that was spec'd in the RFP. It's very similar to what we use as a company nationwide. We do have some experience with this in an account right outside of Nashville. It's not necessarily this size of an account, but we do have managers that will be on board that can help train in that regard. Next is how we remedy requests and concerns. Again, we want our managers available at all times. Those report cards tell us a whole lot. We like to put binders in the front office that will have a logbook where people can put their requests. We also keep a floor plan up there in that logbook so that if we send a substitute employee, if we have a call out, we have our floor plans. It shows which hallway was done by what employee. And when that person, Sally, calls out and we send an absentee, or I'm sorry, a substitute custodian over there, they know which hall Sally was doing. Sorry. So it really helps us when we, inevitably you're going to have a lot of people call out. So you've got to have some kind of system in there to make sure the person you send knows where they're supposed to go. We also have an app and a QR code. This QR code is up and live. You can scan it if you like, and it'll give you exactly what you see there on the phone, where it gives the name of the school, the teacher, room number, and then a brief description of their issue. That gets sent to our admin, who will then filter it out to the appropriate manager. And then again, I mentioned our inspections, but just inspection and accountability measures, making sure that our managers are out there doing what they need to do on a daily basis. Adam mentioned our transition team. Everybody on this board is from Tennessee. There is nobody here from out of state. He mentioned that John Brooks there is local to Hamilton County, and Kevin Juneau is in East Tennessee, just up the street. George will live in Hamilton County. This will be his operation, and he will reside here in Chattanooga. Let me go back a little bit, just kind of our pre-start, startup, launch, assess, and improve process, and I'll go into more detail in the next, but this part of our transition plan and how we try to create a seamless transition with this. So you'll see a Gantt chart here, and this is just a snippet of what the whole process looks like, but it is day-to-day updates of what needs to be done. It's a little bit small, but it's everything from ordering equipment, getting job cards to employees, and making sure their workload is sufficient for the hours they work. You can see that this is not just a generic thing. We have already tailored this. Our names are in here of who's responsible for what, so that everybody knows what their job is as we get started.
Thank you, Josh. I want to say one thing about transition. We want a seamless transition plan. Obviously, what we've got is a team that we've put together. We feel like we're confident enough to come in early on, once we're awarded, if we're awarded the contract, and begin immediately. So really feel strongly about our team. If you don't know it, Brandon's a pastor too, and sometimes he gets a little worked up and starts to perspire a little bit, but we're proud of our team, and we sure are glad to be here. We want to give back. Obviously, what we want to do for the district is we understand constraints in your budget. We're going to give you $150,000 over the course of the contract, or $25,000 a year to use as a contribution, however you see fit. Our employees are our most valuable asset. The receptionist up front, Miss Dot, we heard that she had 61 years. That's the type culture we want, and we realize that you guys have that culture. So we fit in really well with what you guys believe in, and we want to continue to work with our employees. Obviously, rewarding them is important. Giving back to them is so important. So we're serious about this. And we're going to commit to spending contribution-wise to each and every school in your community. We know there's sporting events. We know there's different activities going on. So we will commit for that. It's a long-term partnership for HCS. And we realize that in a long-term partnership, we have to give back. And we understand the importance of the financial constraints that you all go through. The $250,000 preferred partner sign-on bonus is, as soon as we sign on, it's $250,000 back to the district. And we feel like it's important. We know there's budgetary constraints, and we know there's some budget cuts, so we want to do our part. Went the wrong way. I used to look like these guys 30 years ago, but I started in the industry in 1975, and it's evolved. But one thing that's common is that experience means a lot. And obviously what we want to make sure is focus on just the educational part of what we do. We don't do any other cleaning as far as out in commercial or anything else. It's a different type cleaning. It requires different training. And so we feel real confident in the fact that we have the experience that we can retain our personnel. 97% client reference retention rate. Our references are our most important and proudest part of what we do. And obviously, one of the things we try to do is in those long-term partnerships ensure that we have the robust and satisfied clients day in and day out. That takes complete attention to your school district or another school district, and we're committed to that. The proven programs, we talked about those. I won't dwell on them except that it's important to have consistency. It's important to have standard cleaning methods. You want to make sure that we simplify tasks for each and every employee. It doesn't seem like a tough business, but if you don't train properly, you can have some problems. So one of the things we do with HR, with our operations, is ensure that it's consistently, we're training every day. The checks and balances as far as BVRs, which is a twice a year report that we do. We basically value how we've done for the past 6 months with you, your stakeholders. We ask for feedback, but we also give you data on how we've done based on the quality control. So one of the things we want to do is make sure that you guys understand from data how we're doing on a regular basis. The right cultural fit, every student matters. Every day counts for each student. And we realize there's got to be consistency and equity across the board. So I'm a strong proponent of public education. And the one thing I know is at the end of the day, it's about the students. At the end of the day, it's do they have a clean environment? Is it safe for them to learn in? And we want to make sure that you know that that's our number one goal. Tennessee's our home. It's been my home. It's been our home. Obviously, we are spread out across the United States, but our focus is in Tennessee. Our corporate office is in Tennessee. We're privately held. Everyone in this room on our side is a stakeholder. It just means more. We take the profits and put them back into what we do. We put it back into resources. We put it back into our employees. We give back to you guys. So the stakeholders, we've got more passion, and we've got obviously what we want to do with each and every one of our stakeholders is make sure they understand that you're going to be rewarded based on what we get out of the school district in long-term relationships. I can assure you we won't let you down. We will not let you down. The people you see in this room will be part of the everyday process. We won't sell you a bill of goods and walk out of here and not show back up. Each and every person in this room will be here. So we're built for this, and we're anxious to get started with Hamilton County Schools.
Just want to give you a brief overview of the program we built based on the RFP compliant model. Our programs keeps all the same robust management you saw presented in the presentation. It keeps the wage structure that Adam talked to you about. It also has a $1.9 million investment in brand new equipment. We'll bring in the newest and best equipment, this year's model of everything, and new vehicles for our staff there. It'll keep people in your building every day. The savings really comes, we identified just some efficiencies based off student count in some buildings. This program will have 334 FTEs in it. It will have, as I said, this is an overview of it right here, but 334 FTEs. It'll have the bonuses and everything that David laid out for you. It'll have the management structure that you saw at the top. And where we found some efficiencies is during break cleaning. What we'll do is we'll bring in people who are focused on restorative cleaning, doing floors, doing deep cleaning in bathrooms, deep cleaning in locker rooms. We might not bring in a staff member that just does the classrooms every day over spring break where there's no student activity in there. But this is our program. I want to tell you this, we believe in Hamilton County. We've been targeting this account for 16 months. We're built for this. As David said, we want to move forward with you all. We believe we're the future with you all, and we're confident that we can perform this work. We really appreciate your time tonight, and now we'll open up for questions and any discussion you all have.
All right, and board, they've answered some, but we'll still follow the same question thing. So Ben, if you want to start.
Yep, thank you for coming and answering the questions and doing a great job presenting. Your one slide pretty much explained the average pay for custodial workers, so pretty much solid on that one. Don't want to assume anything though, but I'm assuming you guys provide benefits for the individuals actually in the classrooms, schools, and everything. Wonderful. Okay, that was my question.
Yeah, so I'll say that was one of the things we do offer, the health, dental, vision, all of that. We have the free life insurance policy for all of those full-time employees as well. But, you know, we offer a lot of ancillary type coverage they can get, you know, through the process as well. Yeah, all those full-time people will have access to that.
So define for me what you mean by full-time employees, because
Anybody that works 30 hours or more for us, yes, is considered full-time.
all right, Jody?
Ms. Sherry, you spoke about how you have overstaffing
Yes.
to handle job vacancies and absenteeism. And that's my question is, how do you implement that on a daily basis to ensure that our buildings remain fully staffed?
So, as Adam mentioned, we have the 10% that we have to overstaff 10%, and then we identify 10% of the current labor force that is willing to work some additional hours. So if someone calls out, as Adam suggested on the call, we dispatch an absentee, or we dispatch a substitute employee to take that who's been identified as that 20%.
And no-shows, how do you track no-shows?
So if it's no, sorry? Yeah, the call center that we have, it's a no-call, no-show. Obviously, we may not know for a little while, but we'll get phone calls from the staff at the school or from our manager visiting, but that is all done through our hotline.
So the overnight, if someone doesn't show up overnight?
Overnight, we do have lead supervisors in every school that is responsible for making sure every area is covered. If it's not, they notify their manager. That way we can get that substitute employee there.
So we're not waiting till the next morning to
No,
find
ma'am,
out?
absolutely not. That's unacceptable.
Thank you.
So the current custodial vendor employs 336 staff members. I saw on the slide, it said that you all would employ 334. So I guess my question would be, would this 334 be a constant number, or that would be the maximum that you would contract to employ?
Sure, that's a good
Take.
question. So the 334 is what we call a FT. That's a full-time equivalent.
Okay.
I think that we could probably all agree that it would be naive for us to think that everyone is going to be an 8-hour employee, because some folks, this may be a second job for them, so they may be a part-time. Some of them may say, I have to work during the days because, I have to pick my children up and we've got this, that, and the other at night, and we're understanding of that. So we've earmarked the 334 as the constant as far as the equivalent goes. But I can tell you that during any transition, we give every recommended existing employee the opportunity to come on board with us. And we do that in 2 parts. So we have a town hall meeting exclusively for the existing employees first. Before we open up any positions to the community, we want to make sure that all the questions of the current employees that you principals and administrators want to see retained, we want to make sure that they're made very comfortable and have all their questions met. We give them the opportunity to go ahead and begin the application process so that we can identify where they're working, when they're working, and what gaps there are. So when there's those gaps that come up, only then do we begin the staffing from within the community. Because we want to make sure that we retain the existing staff first and then backfill within the community. And from there on out, that's when that ongoing recruiting continues throughout with that 10% pool.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
What is your company's annual turnover rate, and what strategies do you have to in place to retain your employees? And I know you touched on a few things.
Sure, another good question. So, make no mistake, being in the custodial industry, it's typically a pretty high turnover business. So I would say company-wide, gosh, it's so different by region. 15% is probably a healthy number. I know in the state of Tennessee, we're at about 10%. And I know in Cleveland, in the Cleveland area, as I mentioned, we're at about 5%. So what that means is, kind of during COVID, it put everything and turned it on its head, right? And so staffing went one way and we went the other, and it was really hard to keep up because wages were increasing by 20 and 25% a year because no one wanted to come to work. And so we feel like that is stabilized. We feel like the workforce is stable in the area, and we've identified what we feel like is an above market wage. So that will retain people and keep them coming to work. So that's going to address a lot of the absenteeism and the vacancies that you may be experiencing now.
And I would say this, we talk about culture, we talk about training, all of that matters. And maybe you start out with a 20%, absentee rate or turnover rate, and you carve that down. And one of the things we've done in the larger districts that we're in now, Duval County, Florida, Metro Nashville, Memphis, is we brought that down. And Adam mentioned in Tennessee, it's somewhere around 10%. It's probably a little lower in Nashville and a little bit lower in Memphis, but we've been there a while. So we realized in the beginning we've got to ramp up that hiring, we've got to ramp up the 10 to 20% to ensure that we have employees in the buildings.
Thank you.
Was there a part 2 of your question that I didn't address? I apologize if there was.
No, turnover rate and retaining your employees, and you've already touched on that subject some.
Yes, ma'am, thanks.
So you all mentioned the 20% float of employees to be able to utilize in different areas, and you talked about knowing things as the calls come in to be able to take care of it. So how will you ensure that the buildings are being cleaned in our school system every night? And kind of follow up to that is, in a situation where it's the nighttime and there's not always somebody who's usually in charge of that building there, what's your measure to make sure that person has shown up and that they're clean to the specifications we're asking for?
Sure, great question. So during the daytime, that cleaning is kind of a reactive type cleaning. A student vomits or there's an emergency. I have to go do this and I have to go do that. At nighttime is when we bring it back together and get it put back together for the next day. And so we have to supervise and manage that forever, ongoing, because we know that schools never sleep. There's district events, there's ball games, there's PTA, there's outside events that are coming in, sometimes planned and sometimes not, and we understand that. So to address that overstaffed pool, they go through the ongoing training before they're placed. Our pathway to success is the ongoing training, and then when they're placed under a supervisor in each building so that they're shown the ropes. Only once we feel like they've gone through the training and they have all of their P's and Q's, taken care of, do we actually assign them to a school based on where they live within the community. At night, we have a supervisor dedicated to every building because, to your point, if Adam is out and I have to send a sub, that section still has to be cleaned the same. And so that's when the supervisor comes back in behind, checks and double checks. If there's an issue, if something was missed, brings the person back in and retrains them and shows them, you know, a kindergarten classroom, I've seen 100 trash cans in these classrooms sometimes. So we know that they tuck them under desk, and we know all that stuff. And you only learn it by doing it. And so that's why that supervision is so critical, in addition to the on-site, the account managers that are going to have that book of business as well. So there's several layers that are going to monitor and measure the production each night.
Thank you. For kind of follow up to that, what is your stopgap? How do you know if there's a no-call, no-show, other than somebody calling and saying they're not here?
Sure.
Do you have like you mentioned your app a few times. Do you have a way to track the person, like saying, hey, I'm here, I've checked in for my job?
We do. So we have a teletimekeeping system. That's how they punch in and out. And so everyone has a code that they punch in. If that code isn't punched in, it automatically alerts the manager. So it says, and a lot of times it's, I just forgot to punch in. They sometimes aren't there, but more times than not, it's, I forgot to punch in, which, you know, we're humans, we make mistakes. But that automatically notifies the manager that something's going on over at ABC Elementary School.
I have a follow-up question. Your electric time card or whatever, does it ping a location when they clock in?
Yeah, they can't call in from their cell phone at their house. So we have a geofence on it, so that it has to be on the perimeter of the campus for them to be able to call in, to prevent just that, what I think you're alluding to. Yeah.
Also, there's information on that eHub system, electronic timekeeping system, where it has the information for that employee, and it has their telephone number and also emergency information that the manager can look on the phone and also contact that person just in case they don't call it.
Yeah.
I would just add on the cleaning, so important to have standard procedures. Every cleaner knows what we expect. When you, for instance, go in a classroom, you empty trash first, you go left to right. I mean, it's kind of like McDonald's making a hamburger. I mean, the hamburger's going to be the same, right? So we know the consistency has to be there. You have a scope of work, very well written, and based on that, we set up a standard, and that standard cleaning procedure allows us to train properly. But the most important part about it is checks and balances, the supervision in every school, making sure we go back and check after every cleaner. It's got to get done. And we're not saying that we don't train properly. We're just saying that, like Adam said, there may be a trash can tucked under a desk that maybe they forgot. So we want to make sure that we've got the supervision in each school so we can have the checks and balances each and every night.
Thank you.
I have a question. How do you manage the summertime in terms of, really the only time you can really take care of our floors properly?
Sure.
Strip.
So I think one of the things that me personally that I have to have it done is I want the people that work in that school every day responsible for that floor work. Aside from the restorative gym floor work, we want the people that are in that school to focus on their summer work. So we're training them if they need the training, but I don't want to move a crew from school to school to school. They don't have pride in that school. I want the people that work there every day that take pride in their work to be completing those floors. If they're trained on it. If they're not, we'll support that training and make sure they have that.
So I really don't know how that works. I mean, we've got some schools that, are used during the summer, so you have a limited window for those particular schools. Do you surge schools?
Yes, so we
with
will
that
have
supervisor at that school leading a team of folks that get that accomplished?
We will have additional teams for those that may get behind or those that may have, the summers are getting shorter and shorter for us in schools every year. So we do have teams that will go in and help and surge, as you mentioned, to get those back on schedule. But one of the things we do is in the front of the school, as soon as you open the door, we're going to have a floor plan of the building, and we're going to have a schedule of what we're going to do each and every week. Usually that's by this hallway, so the 200 hallway. And we will go in there, simple marker, color that in, make sure the principal signs off on that floor work being completed and satisfactory. And it also is a safety concern. If teachers are coming in throughout the summer, they know where we're working that week. So they know what we've done, they know where we're going, and they know what the plan is to finish up.
Which was my next question. So thank you.
Yeah, I would add too that maintenance projects, activities are every day. So we've got to make sure we communicate properly with the staff on site as well as the district staff.
And nobody knows better than the principal in the building what parts of the building are going to be used in the summer. So I assume you're going to get with the principal early May or
Yes, sir.
whatever and determine this plan of action.
Absolutely. As David mentioned, we will meet with the maintenance teams. There's a lot of IT work that goes on in the summer, so absolutely, we will sit down. And that schedule I mentioned where it shows week to week, we actually have the principal sign that so that we know the manager sat down with those principals and got that information.
Thank you.
Okay, you've answered pretty much my question about the summer, but most of our schools have like summer basketball training, wrestling training, you name it. So do you have like a full staff that's going to go in every summer and clean after all the basketball tryouts and so forth?
There are no layoffs in the summer. Unless they're voluntary, there are no layoffs in the summer. We need these folks in here. We need them working. So they are in the schools doing the work that we need and also hitting on those places that are used for after-hours events.
Oh. Okay, so in every school, you oftentimes get complaints about no toilet tissue, no soap, so question is, how does your company manage the allocation and allocate custodial supplies to ensure that our schools are adequately stocked?
Well, to make sure your schools are adequately stocked, first of all, we keep 2 weeks' worth of supplies on hand, depending on which school it is, and also we set up regional supply areas within the regions. I think we got 8 regions, and we'll have one school that may have a lot of supplies. They may have a month worth of supplies on that, and that's also dictated by the populace in the building or the community, and also the trending. We're watching your trending every week, actually, but we look at it from a monthly standpoint. Watch your trending to make sure that you have enough commodities on hand to actually accommodate the facility. We also have relationships with supply vendors. Well, right now what we do in Memphis, we have a just-in-time delivery system where we can get stuff the same day. We order it by 2 o'clock, we can actually go get it, or they'll deliver it the next day. So we never run out of supplies. Yeah, you're gonna get a situation where they've had a party or they've had a lot of activities in a building and your trending starts to go up. It may be related to that time of the year. Well, we plan for that, especially after we get through a cycle of a year. We can kind of see how your trending goes, but we're always adjusting those numbers to make sure that you have the supplies that you need.
Dr. Robertson knows Bobby Webb, and I remember Bobby Webb telling me years ago, David, whatever you do, don't ever run out of paper and have Johnny go home and say, Mama, I didn't have any toilet paper. So we want to make sure we've got it in every building.
We do. We rely a lot on those building supervisors to communicate with the manager on their stock level week to week, day to day if necessary. So we like to keep 2 weeks, but we also rely a lot on that nighttime supervisor to update their manager and the manager as they're in the building as well.
So you did kind of like a high-level overview. Describe your management structure and how will you maintain clear communication with both district staff and school staff?
Yeah, I'll take that one. That's a good question. And I apologize. We were told we had 20 minutes to get through our presentation, so it was probably a little bit rushed, but that is an important question. So it starts with the account manager, who's going to be dedicated to a book of business. We'll call it 8 to 10 schools within an area. He or she is going to be making rounds throughout the day and throughout the week and stopping in at every building. They're not going to come in the back door. They're coming in the front door. And they're going to check in with the front office. They're going to make sure everything is as it should be, if there's any needs. And if there are any needs, they're going to put a plan together to get it resolved. So that's part one. So the communication, the day-to-day communication with the salaried account manager and either the principal or their designee by school. Sometimes in the high schools, it may be an AP. But usually at the middle and the elementary level, it's usually the head principal and our account manager that are having those conversations of what the needs are, or even what our plan is for that evening. We may have noticed that a restroom may be due for a scrubbing, and we say, hey, we're going to be doing a little bit of heavy-duty cleaning work this evening down on this hall. Just wanted to make you aware of it, because the communication is critical. If we're not doing that, inevitably something is going to get forgotten or not communicated properly. So part two of that is the supervisors and the hourly staff. We don't ever want there to be a gap in coverage from the time we come in that morning and unlock and check the building for any vandalism or anything that's out of whack to the time we lock it or perhaps code it and arm it on our way home that evening. We want full coverage. We don't ever want there to be, a 30-minute or 45-minute gap where there's no one on site, because inevitably that's when little Johnny throws up. So we want to make sure that we have that covered. And there's communication between the handoff during the daytime and then the nighttime. And anything that comes up in the daytime is addressed at night. If it's something that's major, we get the account manager involved, and he or she communicates that with the principal and gets that on the plans. So I hope that's kind of answering the question. It's just the constant communication. We have the QR code that we're going to be posting laminated on all the janitorial closets throughout the buildings. So if your teacher walks by and they say, we got a class party Friday, I'm going to need an extra trash can or two. They scan the code, they make a request, it's dispatched, and it's done. The account manager comes and checks in and makes sure that's done and confirms and validates that, hey, we got your message, I've got your extra trash can. Or, my bathroom stinks. I've got kindergartners, I've got a bathroom in my classroom, we got a few that missed their spot still, and it's starting to stink. All of that kind of stuff can be communicated at the click of a button, in addition to the account manager checking in each day.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, we've got a few open questions. Ms. Thomas?
Yes, I missed this question before. You talked about the benefits. Do you have paid vacation and paid leave, and paid holidays, I mean?
We do give each of those employees 5 paid PTO days to use however they see fit.
What about paid holidays?
We do not put that into the contract, but that is something that we can negotiate at any time if that's something that we're interested in doing, that y'all want them to be paid.
And there's a reason behind that, Ms. Thomas, is that a lot of the holidays are days that we're working in the schools. So we're doing extra floor work when there's no students. And so can they use a PTO day on that day? Absolutely, they sure can. But usually they like to use them when there's not work to be done. But we have 5. That's pretty typical with our jobs when there's not more required in an RFP. If the district wishes to add some more in, that is absolutely 100% okay, and we can make that happen. It's pretty typical. We'll negotiate that, give you an idea of what that would look like, and if that's of interest to Hamilton County, we can absolutely make that program more robust.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, Mr. Doherty?
Yep, thank you, Chair. Question for George. I don't pretend to be a custodial expert by any stretch, but I would imagine one of the most important pieces to all this is the individuals, men and women, actually cleaning the schools and these classrooms. I know you've got account managers allocated for this. I think it was 8. But I would imagine a big part of your job is ensuring that those individuals that are actually doing the work are being heard and supported and encouraged. So my question is, from your perspective, based off your 30-year experience, what are some ways in which you kind of cultivate an environment or a culture that is more conducive to retention in terms of supporting these individuals that are actually doing the work in these buildings?
Well, first of all, we want to make sure that people want to be here, first of all. So it's how we treat them, first of all. We have incentive programs for the employees. We also, these individuals, we want to make sure that they have all the tools that they need, because they can't clean if they don't have enough rags, they don't have enough brooms, that kind of thing. So you got to have those tools. But training, and follow up. Now, whenever we get a complaint, 9 times out of 10, somebody knows about it, of course, before we do. Organically, things happen from the standpoint that somebody knows about the issue, and then the other people from other sections will come and help this employee out. Our managers are always coming by to make sure that the cleaning is done, and then we're going on a weekly walkthroughs to make sure that happens. But also, it starts with communication to answer your question. You can't get anything done without the communication, and we're going to have relationships with the teachers and the staff. We're going to know where to be. If you talk to somebody enough every day, you're going to find out where you need to be. You're going to know what's dirty. I can tell you right now, in a lot of places over those 30 years, I've been exactly where to go. I can think about SME right now. I can tell you what building's going to be what needs to be cleaned in that building and how it needs to be done, because we spent the time to be there and be a part of that program, that department, to know what the needs are. So.
I wanted to add to that, one of the things that, since COVID, when we had so many vacancies during that time, overworking people. Yeah, there's never good results coming from overworking people. So doing those job cards, workloading everything that employee is responsible for is very important. Based on the requirements of your RFP and what we have in there as our FTE count, I just don't think you could do it successfully with anything less than that. So making sure that employee is not doing too much of what the hours they're supposed to be in that building.
Mr. Slater?
Maybe I missed it, but I don't see a cost. Like a yearly, maybe I missed it.
Here you go.
I think I told you Brandon's he's a preacher, a pastor, so he usually does that last, as.
So it's like an altar call, right?
That's right, exactly. So this is our proposed program for Hamilton County. It just basically is a rundown of, the operations director being George, the 2 salaried zone managers, the on-site admin, the account manager, so a total of 12 salaried employees, a total of 334 full-time employees. That's the equivalent of 2,670 hours. So we use the word APA, which is basically cleaning standards. In our opinion, our professional opinion, anything less than what we're proposing falls into APA 3, which if you look up APA 3, by definition, it's moderate dinginess is how it's defined. And I don't believe that Hamilton County or any K through 12 school for that matter needs moderate dinginess. And so we build all of our programs to APA 2 standards. We invest heavily in new state-of-the-art equipment that everyone will be trained on, everybody will be able to use. It's not going to be refurbished. It's not going to be stolen from another district. This is all brand new state-of-the-art. And just like a new car, it improves each year. So we want to maintain it. So we're partnered with American Paper and Twine here in Chattanooga with their equipment department. Everything's going to have a QR code. Those mechanics are going to come out and service our equipment so that nothing is down. And if something is down for a lengthy period of time, we're going to get it replaced. And as it's serviced, there's a life cycle for all these equipments, especially when you're introducing water to them. So an auto scrubber, for that matter, where you're cleaning the halls with. There's going to come a point in time where it's antiquated and it needs to be replaced. So we're going to use our equipment partnership with American Paper and Twine, those experts, to identify when the time is right to get a new piece of equipment in there so everybody can have the right stuff. So all in, including our offerings and everything, that's kind of a summary. So $13,498, $805.99 is what our proposed program is.
You might say it doesn't include the givebacks.
Yeah, we didn't bake the givebacks are from us. They're not baked into the cost. So did that get your question, Mr. Slater?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ms. Thomas?
Oh, my question was just, were you currently with Shelby County School Systems now?
Yes, we are.
How long have you been there?
Well, I've been there 2.5 years.
I mean, but your company has been there 2.5 years or longer?
Oh, our company has been there longer, but I came 2.5 years ago.
I'll go ahead. Yeah. We've actually been there, I don't want to go through all this, but a company called GCA, we started back in 1996, and we grew that company to a $1 billion company. We had the Shelby County account until 2015, and then we sold to ABN. And so our culture is different from ABN. And basically, we have shareholders, stockholders, each and every manager we have, so that we have buy-in from each and every manager. So we got out at that time, but we were there for 10 years, and then we've come back in here 4 years ago. So we've been back in as HCS 4 years ago.
Thank
Now,
you.
so you had shareholders and stockholders previously, but you do not have shareholders and stockholders now?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. HCS?
Okay, because in the original presentation, it was said that you were an individually owned company.
No. We're privately held.
Okay.
But each of our, and I'm sorry if I confused you, but each and every manager we have is an owner in a company.
Okay.
Each and every manager.
Well, I understand the shareholders, but stockholders, so it is a
No, I misspoke. Stakeholders. I should have said stakeholders, maybe I said shareholders, but it's stakeholders.
All right, thank you.
Which
That-
means that
yes.
each and every,
That clears it up.
sorry about that.
We're not beholden to, we're not a publicly traded company,
Right.
in
Thank
short. We're privately held.
I don't see any other lights on.
You're in Baton
Oh,
Rouge. Baton Rouge. Y'all have Baton Rouge.
We have community schools, central community schools in Baton Rouge and East Baton Rouge Parish, in Louisiana.
I'm just curious, George. Are you from Chattanooga originally, or what town are you from originally? Just curious.
I'm originally from South Carolina. I'm by way of Tennessee. Came to Tennessee years ago. His brother called me in his office one day and said, "Hey, I need you to come out. I need you to go somewhere." So, long story short, he said, "I need you to go to Knoxville, Tennessee." I said, "Okay." I said, "Well, when?" He said, "Tomorrow." So, came in the next day. He said, "I need you to stay here." So, at any rate, but I've been all over the country pretty much. Worked in Chicago, Detroit, Philadelphia, down in Florida, but started up a lot of large districts, and that was part of my job at the time, but also ran a lot of these areas. And part of my job was to actually run the job for a couple of years, and then I'd pass it on to someone else because we are actually growing the company. Now I'm in the process of trying to get back to this area because I like this area because I own a couple of houses in Knoxville, Tennessee, so I like to be back in this area because, hey, go Vols, and I love this.
Let me say, East Baton Rouge, we're in the third year. We just got a renewal from Superintendent Cole. I don't know if you know anything about that, but they've had some turnover in the superintendent position. But it's really a strong partnership that we have with the district there. It is 3 services, custodial, actually 4, custodial, grounds, maintenance, and then they have some materials handling as well.
We have Mr. Groen left, and then we will close out.
I'm curious about your stakeholders. So I want to understand that. So within maybe a 401k that you might have for your employees, or are you telling me that there's a privately held company and the employees can buy like shares? Is there some program like that?
The management team can buy shares, obviously, stock or shares in the company. We have what we call MEP units, which are the key individuals in our company, all of our management team. We distribute so many MEP units to all of our managers. In other words, they may have 100,000 MEP units. They're worth $1 a piece. And then once we go forward with our company, if, for instance, there's an event that takes place, then they're able to participate in that event. And when we say that we're sponsored by a private equity company, that means that they put behind us millions of dollars, $100 million, for instance, to start new accounts or whatever that might be. So obviously, the key to this is that we want to distribute out these MEP units or these incentive units, so to incentivize each and every one of our managers, obviously, to buy in and to have more passion about what we're doing, because it does mean more to them.
Well, does that mean that goes all the way down to the 8 managers that we would have here?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We'll take a moment to clear out, and then Dr. Sharp, if you would, we'll hear from you next.
Here, eat another raisin.
And I got work
I got work to do too. Eat you another raisin.
So what was?
I'm not saying to me no until you got 15 minutes.
No, I got
Send to council tomorrow.
I really think we can get this done by 7 o'clock. All right, so Dr. Sharp.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Keene, and thank you, board, for being here tonight and participating with your questions and your attention as these two custodial groups presented to us this evening. As Gary stated at the beginning of the meeting, our committee is using this event as the third and final round of our process. And of course, we had some of our committee members here tonight. Others will watch it on YouTube. We'll reconvene this week as a committee and do our final scoring and discussion about these two companies, and prepare to bring you a final recommendation at the March board meeting. Tonight's been very beneficial, not only to hear the additional discussion with the vendors, but also to their interaction with you has also been very helpful in helping us get a clearer picture of which way we want to go with our recommendations. So thank you very much. We'll also bring the 13th the grounds recommendation, and we're doing separate contracts this time. And we had fewer RFPs for grounds. We do feel confident we're going to narrow that down fairly quickly and bring a solid finalist for you. We left them out of the presentation part just because we felt that this was the main piece of the work. We feel really good about our grounds options, and but if any of you have any questions about that, you can contact me this week and I can give you some more information.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
So you'll do your final selection and make a recommendation, and this may be a board question, I don't know, being new. So the recommendation you make, just say for instance, the board votes that recommendation down. Do you start the process all over, or do you go to the next? Well, how does that work? I'm just curious.
No, that's a good question. I hadn't thought of that. I hope we get you. We hope we get you the right vendor to recommend. But if it's voted down at the end of the day, we would go back and reconvene our committee and consider our options at that point. I would hope that we would be able to come back to you with another recommendation, because the whole RFP process is quite rigorous and drawn out and involved. So does that answer your question?
It does. I just didn't know if you had to start the whole process
Yeah.
over where you can go back. Okay.
So if I'm not mistaken, though, the procedure would be you're going to bring us the top candidate that you feel is it. We will either vote yes or no. If we vote no, then we would go to the second.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
We'd have to go back and reconsider. It's just like any other contract that we bring to you to a board meeting for approval. You know, the administration brings to you our best recommendation for this service based on our, study of the issue and digging into the proposals and comparing that to the RFPs. Not unlike any other contract we bring to you.
All right. I didn't realize that.
No.
All right, so do you want to give us, I know we split the grounds. Do you want to give us the two? I think it was two.
We're in the final process. We'll have that narrowed down this
Okay.
week to a finalist. We're not quite there yet,
All right.
but we're working on that. Now, in terms of your general assessment of tonight, I know you've only had, one chance to look at this, and you can get a decent idea of what these two companies bring to us. And some of you that have had experience on the board in the past understand how these things go. Reach out to me directly with any comments, suggestions, additional questions, and it doesn't have to be me. It could be any member of our committee. Feel free to respond however you see best see a fit in terms of getting that information to us.
Who's on that committee?
Yeah, so it's me, Justin Witt, Bill Travis, Ben Coulter. Then we have some principals on there with Brent Eller and Karen Cox. Karen was here earlier, and Brent. Rashad Williams. And then we have the purchasing representatives from the purchasing department that aren't on the committee, but they've been supporting that committee work throughout the process, make sure we're following all the rules.
All right, so we'll move on to number 7, the new North River Elementary School. I think we had a vote on that already, but.
Yeah, I'm just, I know y'all, we ran over and you have more to cover, so just a high level, quick overview. Those, A, B, and C, I kind of see those as 3 different approaches to the projects and kind of where they are in the timeline. A is North River Elementary, and I just noticed that Gateway was also, should be on that A area as well, where we're doing a design bid build. It was, you know, simple enough projects, go ahead and get them moving. So A is a design bid build. North River architectural contract is on the commission agenda meeting Wednesday, voting on next Wednesday. Gateway's coming, should be right behind it. B is our CMAR, the CMAR option that we discussed thoroughly. We do have a CMAR agreement put together. We're shooting to send that to the March board agenda. I realized that we were trying to clean up some of that architectural selection process with the CMAR, but I realized we do have an architectural selection process already in place. So we've released the county to go ahead and start the architect selection for those B schools. They'll be in the paper, I think, Sunday. So from Sunday, about a 45 day window, we should have architects on board for those. So again, back to the CMAR, we'll try to bring the architect, and then very close behind the architect will have the CMAR come on board as well. So those 2 groups are working together. C is some of the future work that we were looking at. Making pretty good headway on Orchard Knob Middle and Thrasher. Still looking at some options at Normal Park. It's obviously
What did you say about Orchard Knob? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
We're making some headway on future plans on the item C is Normal Park, Orchard Knob Middle, and Thrasher. Those are the 3 that we are consulting with some architects for future planning. Our next round possibly of projects coming. So just looking at options on renovation, demolition, you know, future enrollment. So.
And how many years away would that be, that you're gonna look at the options?
How many?
How long will you all decide whether it's?
Thomas, if you remember, we approved month and a half, 2 months ago for us to go and contract with an architect to go evaluate that building, because you guys approved out of that $60 million bond issue, a $6 million HVAC project, and we said before we did that, we wanted to go in and evaluate to make sure that Orchard Knob is structurally sound, has the mechanics, that it would be wise to invest that in it right now. And so what he's talking about is that architect, and that report should be ready in 15 to 30 days.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what, okay. That recommendation, okay.
All right, any questions on any of this?
Yes.
Yes, we do. Mr. Condon.
Thank you. Yeah, so we're still on the timeline of March 15th is when they're supposed to have that report back to us?
I know the mechanicals, probably mechanical electrical systems, I think they're going next week to really do a deep dive in the systems. That's probably the main delay right now. Like I said, between that and there's just so many options and grading challenges and elevator and.
They committed to March 15th, or did they ask for more time, or?
They haven't yet, no.
Okay. I'll show up at their doorstep then.
Yeah. And they're doing it for free, by the way.
No, don't commit to something you can't give, no matter, they committed to the cost too.
How's the CMAR selected? How does that process?
So the CMAR, and that's, we had some back and forth between us and the county, so the funds will have to come completely through Hamilton County Schools. It's a finance question, I haven't really gotten to that part yet. But the CMAR selection will be very similar to an architect selection. So the committee will only be HCDE team employees, and it's a committee selection, so we'll have an RFP.
So do we send out some kind of RFP with all the contract?
Yep, so you do an RFP, and you'll basically have, a contract, and that will be construction services cost, which will be the initial, your deliverable on the construction services is a guaranteed maximum price. So in our RFP, we will ask for a fee, so that would be one comparable measure. And like I said, at the end of that construction services fee, you'll have a guaranteed maximum price. From that, you amend the contract for them to actually manage the contract.
All right, so I don't see any more questions there. The last thing, facility discussion. I think Ms. Schaefer brought us some information to kind of go
Yes,
over.
and I'm gonna stand up, because I don't want y'all to fall asleep. I'm gonna come out here. Yes, bring it front and center. Wake up, this is exciting. Okay, so I'm here to talk about an exciting time in District 7. We are growing, and we're excited about the growth in District 7. I'm excited about the growth in District 7 and what it can do to give us an opportunity for doing better for our students and our community. So District 7 is, construction-wise, we're growing. 2,000 new sewer lines have been granted for my district this year. And if you look at this lovely little map, you will see that all of my elementary schools are already over capacity. And I gave you the numbers there. Appleton Elementary School is at 104.44% capacity. And it is landlocked. There's no room to build and expand on Appleton. East Brainerd Elementary, 113.59% over capacity. Westview Elementary, 127.97% over capacity. So what does that tell me? Is that I don't have room currently for the growth that's happening. And again, I'm excited for the growth. It gives us a chance to do better, to make some changes. And while we're talking about facilities, this is where this comes in, is I'm not asking for another building. All of you represent districts that have needs. And we're trying to be creative and innovative with what we have. So if you look at the numbers at East Hamilton High School, it's only at 65.26% capacity. I have room at my high school. The current middle school is at 77.58% capacity. I have room in that building for growth. So how can we use our current facilities, which are nice, I love our facilities, to create room and opportunity for growth? And we can do that with some innovation by restructuring our schools. So we are beginning the conversations of how to prepare and get ahead and be proactive for this growth. I don't want to be behind the curve. I want to be in front of the curve. I want to make room for our families and our students because I want to retain the East Ham fan. That's what we say in my district. We're the East Ham fan. And I want to make space and room to retain them. So this is a proposal that we're beginning to have conversations. We're going to have conversations with the community. March 6th is our first community meeting, but I want to bring it to the board because it will require a board vote. But this is a restructuring of our current elementary schools. We can make them a K through 3. We can make our current middle school into an intermediate school. We can make that a 4, 5, 6. And then we can make our high school a 7 through 12. About 5 years ago, our high school was a 6 through 12 before the middle school building was built. And it did very well. So this would be going kind of back to that, but preserving the 6th graders, allowing them to stay in the intermediate school. You'll see there's a one-pager that gives you some stats of the benefits educationally that this can bring. And I'm excited. I am a parent of 3 kids in my district, and I would have a kid in each school. So I'm right there in the middle of it with my community. And what I'm excited about in the K-3 opportunity is how it would close literacy gaps. We can really focus on literacy in that K-3. That 4 through 6, maybe what I'm most excited about is, Normal Park has some great opportunities in their structure, their K-8. CSLA has some great opportunities in the way that they're structured. What we can do in a 4 through 6 in District 7 is we can create early science labs, early introduction to school athletics. I know, Mr. Slater, in the North Hamilton community, you do have school teams that compete. We don't have that in District 7, but we could have that with the intermediate school and the facilities there. We can have East Hamilton Intermediate grades 4, 5, and 6 sports. We can have early introduction to the arts, band, theater. So it creates an opportunity to take the lid off our students and allow that almost like a magnet school feel in District 7. And then the 7 through 12 will allow our students to engage in honors courses a little bit earlier, those that are able to, that just takes the lid off again academically for them. It allows for training in athletics for us to be, have our hands in training the younger generation and getting them prepared for athletic competition. There's so many wonderful things that can come from this redistricting, restructuring that I'm excited as a parent and as a community member. So I'm bringing it to you so that you can start to wrap your mind around any questions you have. Yes, there's going to be logistics questions, and we're going to work through those, and we're going to listen to the community. All of this information is going to be sent out to the community tonight, including the announcement of the March 6th community meeting. And then we're going to follow that up with a survey so parents can be heard, community members can be heard. But you'll see from our lovely chart that we've got to make space. We've got to make room. And we can do that without another building in District 7. And we can focus those resources to your districts for the facility needs that you have. But by just restructuring in District 7, we can get every school under 100% capacity. If you look at those numbers of projected enrollment, I can get every building under 100% capacity without the modules. So that's exciting to me. That's exciting for our students. That's exciting for our families and for our community. Community feel is what I want in District 7. I want to embrace my community. I want to keep my families. We have attrition from 5th to 6th grade. I don't want the attrition. I want them to be involved and have a place where they feel like this is their place, this is their home. Same thing with 8th through 9th. If we can create more continuity of placement for children, now I'm a lawyer and that's what I have argued for years. This continuity of placement is the #1 best interest factor for a child. So continuity of placement of 4 through 6, 7 through 12. They're comfortable, they're bought in, they're in the community, they're being taken care of by our excellent leaders, and they can excel. So if you have questions for me, I'll take your questions.
I've got a question and a comment I'm going to
Yeah.
make. So first, where's the March 6th community meeting?
It's at East Hamilton High School at 6 p.m.
And then second, I was a part of the Cleveland City Schools January board meeting. They voted to build a 4 through 6 school rather than another elementary school. They have a lot of information about the positives of that. Dr. Elliott is the superintendent of the thing, and he would gladly share that with you. So if you want to contact him, they had about a 3-month, 4-month discussion about whether to build another elementary, an intermediate, move kids up from middle to high. So they just went through all this if you want to contact them.
Thank you. That's a great resource. And it lets us know that we are on target with where education's kind of going and in this region.
Okay, Jackie Thomas.
Okay.
I got you.
Great job on your presentation, Jody. I would say that for you. However, I do have, what about if that area continues to grow and it outgrows that in high school and all of that?
That's a great question.
Okay.
I have an answer for you.
Okay, well, that's the first question.
Okay.
The second question is, no, answer the first question.
Okay.
I asked, so I won't be confused because I'm ADHD, I'll be all over the place.
So in our district, we're landlocked in every campus but the high school. We have room in the high school to build on. So as things continue to grow, we have room there to build another building, to grow there. But we're hoping that this would not have to happen for a little while anyways. It give us maybe 5 years. We'll see how the growth happens. You know, we don't get to control the growth. No one really consults us about the growth, but we're doing our best to do good for our students in where we're at.
Okay, and being new, the next thing is being new on the board and being community person and seeing the changes. Everything is out in East Hamilton, all of these new schools, and I'm still seeing schools, and I've expressed this concern, that needs a whole lot. But we're building new schools, we're adding addendums and all of that to these various schools. And then we're saying at the same time, well, these schools don't have enough students in them. So if there are schools, for me, when I look at it, why can't children that are in East Hamilton be bused? It's cheaper than building a brand new school. Be bused to every other area schools. And I mean, I know this is a temporary fix, what you're suggesting, and then it's outlined very good. But that's going to be my question and concern is everything is being built and added to in these schools, and I still see in my district these schools that need to have a whole lot of improvements done, and and I'm learning they on the back burner for the next 5 years. I probably won't even be here, but I'm just saying it's not going to be. It's possible it's past my term of what the 4 years of term. So that's my concern, is that we seem like we're only worried about a certain area of students, and so for me, they don't look like the students in my district. They don't have the same problems that the students in my district have. And so I want them to be able to walk into school and feel the same way, not overcrowded, all of that as students in East Brainerd and East Hamilton would have. So that's going to be one of my concerns and one of my questions. Plus, I don't know how it works as far as us deciding how to restructure our schools. Because what if another area wants to do the same thing on restructuring? Are we to start then looking at that from that perspective of 1 through 3? Because, hey, that's like a real live private school with just 1 K through 3rd grade. It does give them better options of learning. I do literacy. I do agree with all of that. So those are my concerns in regards to it. I want every student to be able to thrive and be able to, you know, feel comfortable walking in their schools and all of that. So I'm just telling you what, you know, my concerns would be. Why can't they be transported somewhere else?
Well, Miss Jackie, I am so glad that you advocate for your schools.
I am.
You know that I love a good advocate. I will say that East Hamilton is one of the most diverse schools in our district. We have the most diversity because we have a little bit of every culture at East Ham, okay? So we're very diverse there. But that's, I think, the beauty of this plan is that I'm not asking to build anything in District 7. I am trying to be innovative and creative with what we already have. And so it wouldn't be taking away from any other district or what's happening in the current facilities plan, because we're not listed on there. But we do have to have a solution, and this is a creative solution.
But is it a Band-Aid? That was my question, I guess, too. Is it just a temporary Band-Aid?
I do think as Chattanooga is growing in general, this board's going to have to look at what do we do with rezoning. We're growing in every district. So I don't think that's the conversation for today, but, you know, I understand your thought process on that, Ms. Jackie, and I appreciate it.
All right, Ms. Jones.
So I was a little late to the party. I had to step out. I had a work call. However, literally I did have a work call. But I do have a question about, for me, I'm always open to innovation. am always concerned with what type of precedents you set with certain things. And so I am wondering, great points I heard when I was able to step back in. I guess I'm saying when I look at this map, I have Woodmore that's right here between 90 and 100%. I have Barger, who is over capacity, and it rains on their heads every time it rains. I have, then you have schools like East Ridge and East Lake and Battle. My child sits in Battle Academy every day. And so I see these other red spaces. I think my concern is, having lived through a few rezonings, what does that look like for the entire Hamilton County Schools district, the other districts that could be affected by this, that are not being proposed in this? What kind of precedents would we be setting? I don't know. I have a lot of questions about this because, I have a lot of questions about this because you made a statement that it would give a more magnet feel in that area. And for me, I wish every school in Hamilton County had a amazing school feel. It doesn't have to just be a magnet feel, right? Because that's a choice. These children don't have a choice. I mean, they're in traditional schools, not a school choice. And so I'm just kind of worried about what does this look like for other areas. And if they see this happening here, what are we saying? Like, what would be the next cluster of schools that this would happen to? Once again, what does that look like? Because I have been in discussions where I'm like, yeah, this school is underpopulation, and I agree with Ms. Thomas, like, why can't we just kind of shift zones? But when you shift zones, people don't like that because it's not comfortable for them. It's not the community that they want to be in, although it might be a community feel. And so a lot of dynamics come into that. So just wanted to share that from another perspective. I mean, I don't think my district would be like, well, we want that too. And in that case, we won't be talking about a Dalewood and a Brainerd going into, we would be talking about that because we'd be trying to figure out how to make an intermediate school there as well. So I think
it's a great opportunity for our board to do
it
exactly
is
what you're saying.
if we do the right thing, it could be, but you have to be willing to have that conversation because while this may make your community comfortable, it may make another community uncomfortable. And how do you make that community comfortable? So just being able to have those conversations. I just want to share that as another thought process and thinking that through.
And that's why we're having this conversation. And I do, as a board, we're going to have to deal with this overcapacity in all these schools.
Oh yeah, I've done it several times, but just want to make sure that you do it right and fair, and with given political
We're not
climates.
changing any zoning right now.
You would,
in
but
our
you would
district.
have to though. You would have to at some point change some zoning
Not-
because you're going to set a precedence.
Not right now. That's not the way we're looking at it. Is we're just dealing with what we have and who we currently have.
Is Mr. Connor down there? Oh, there you are. Mr. Connor.
Sneaky. Thank you, Chair. So I first off have to say, because I say this a lot, I've said it on this DS, that my least favorite thing that anybody can ever say is that we do it that way because we've always done it that way. So anytime that somebody wants to bring a new idea, a thought process that could potentially help kids, I love talking about it. I really do. To echo what Gary was saying, when Prince and I were at COSBA for the national meeting 2 years ago, one of the districts from Alabama has a similar grade model, and I just picked up the notes from that. They had a K2, 3-5, 6-8, 9-12. Smaller district, but it was a really interesting conversation piece along with STEM. So I'm going to email you the notes on that. And just, as Jackie said also, sorry, get back to my microphone, looking at what's around there, I got to ask Justin Witt a question. Oh, he's gone. Does anybody know if we have any hydroelectric underneath the fields at this school? Because I just noticed that there's a couple of fields we could absolutely expand out onto. I'll let you in on that joke in a little bit.
Okay.
But so I say all that to say I'm very interested to hear what your community says. When we were voting on the facilities plan, a lot of us on the board thought that up in District 1, we probably could do different things. We should build onto the high school. But Rhonda brought it to us and said that we shouldn't, and we believed her because that's her district. And I think that that's where I stand on this. I'm excited to hear if your community is into this. I'm excited to think about different possibilities that we can educate the kids. So thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Smith?
I would just say that the 7 words of a Baptist dying church, we ain't never done it that way before. I like the idea. I do have a question, though. Caritza touched on it, because I know it's coming. Rezoning is coming. I mean, that's kind of a statement, but I guess a question, too. When do you anticipate we're going to have to look at our entire district in terms of rezoning?
I mean, so you think about rezoning, we've always kind of approached it from a few different ways. One, if there was a new building, for example, East Hamilton's built, you rezone Ooltewah and East Hamilton, right? Two is if you are merging schools, so Middle Valley, right? Gans Middle Valley coming in, that's an example. We've also done it 3 when schools get overcrowded or underutilized. So 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, I guess, Brainerd and East Ridge, where we moved that zone kind of back to the original zone of the interstate. I think we know right now we've got some issues kind of in the north part of the county. You've got Allen that's kind of underutilized right now. And you know that with the North Hamilton School being built, that you've got some overcrowding at Big Ridge, and then we're gonna have to rezone there. So I would think in the next couple of years, there's gonna have to be a question somewhere around rezoning. I couldn't tell you right now where I think that would be.
Do it in 27.
After you're gone.
Because you're gonna be.
I just got that.
When I'm gone.
Somebody bailed Mr. Eller out, so that's the reason he's here tonight. Well, how you like this?
Thanks, Joe.
How you like this?
So, as I think about all the possibilities, I think it has some really good opportunities. It is exciting. When I think about can we do it or can we not, I know from the high school perspective, with taking back, I guess you will, the 7th and 8th grade, when I went there was 6th through 8th. So all that school stuff we can do, capacity we can work it out, those kind of things. I do agree with, the short term, fixing the overcrowdedness piece and capacity and stuff like that. And I'll follow that right up with the rezoning piece in regards to something that's going to have to be done, just speaking for our area as well, because it is growing. As soon as we make room, that room's going to fill up, right, pretty soon. We don't know how soon, but it will soon. I side on the exciting piece. I think there's a lot of opportunities there, and welcome them.
Well, no, when we build the new school at North River, at DuPont, and close to, I mean, there's going to have to be some rezoning done at that time, I think, isn't there?
Yeah, there will, and again, I think the questions around this one are and Ms. Schaefer and I have talked about this. The questions are more around timing, right? Of like, can we get this done before August, or should we have a longer conversation to next August? And I think all these questions will continue to come up, and it's just a question of whether or not we think about it bigger picture. Do we want to have one zoning conversation and extend things out and look at different areas? And even this area, we know we've got other parts of the county that aren't being utilized. We also have Tyner coming on board that would maybe give it a little bit of time to see what it's doing. So I think that's a question I hadn't really thought about, is you combine this with the bigger rezoning conversation. I don't think anyone is concerned about the idea. Like everyone, we're willing and think the idea is a good idea. What causes me heartburn is trying to get this done in 5 months. that's.
So that's your hope, is to be able to get it done by next school year?
Yes, because we are losing families in the East Ham fam. We are losing them faster than I even want to say. Every day, we're losing more families to other schools. And I want to retain my community. I ran to make the schools better for my community, to represent my community, and that's what I'm asking this board to let me do. Let me represent my community. Let me make things better for them and make space to welcome more people into the East Ham fam. And yes, it's a quick turnaround. I started having this conversation last fall, almost as soon as I got on the board with Dr. Robertson, because I believe in it. And I believe it would be a good thing to fix things quickly. We're way over capacity, and I know your schools are too. And I'm not saying that your schools shouldn't have a fix either. They should. But we need a fix now in East Hamilton. 2,000 new permits this year. I don't know how many is going to come next year. I am a proactive person. I like to be ahead of the curve. I want to make room for people. I don't want to be stuck behind the curve. And I'm asking the board to help me do that. Help me provide for my community in that way.
All right, Ben Doherty. I'm going to interrupt real quick. So we have Mr. Doherty, Ms. Haddon, Ms. Black, and then I'm going to finalize it, and we're going to get out of here.
Thanks, Gary.
Yours isn't showing, but that might be because it's
It ain't on.
so far down the line.
Yeah, it's on. Oh.
Well, mine was showing and you cut me off.
You've talked once already about this.
But I have a question to Robert, so it's not to her.
We'll see.
Who's up?
See
Is
how long
Carita
this
up?
is going.
Well, let me just come ask you since.
Jody, I commend you for what you're doing, because I think ultimately our role as board members is to bring creative solutions to this, and I think it's a healthy discussion to be had. I also think that, I see a lot of red. I'm in a dark red area in District 2. But that excites me because I think growth is probably the best indicator we have that we're doing something right in a public education system. So growth is a challenge, but it's also a good barometer of what we're doing. And I think this is an opportunity to look at a low to no cost alternative to provide a necessary throttle for some of the growth. So I'm really curious to see how the community feedback goes, and I look forward to the feedback on it. And again, I commend you for bringing a creative solution to a very real problem.
Thank you, Ben.
Ms. Haddon.
Yeah, first of all, I'm really impressed with the work that you've done, and you're so invested with having children in each of those schools. And it looks like logically, especially with Westview being at 130% capacity and the two others way over, it's like seems like not too complicated of a solution to to this overcrowded issue that you have. So I think that if there's any way we can do it, it just seems really logical. And I know it's not a permanent solution because of the upcoming growth. There will have to be rezoning, but also the research that you did as far as why K through 3 and all. You backed it up with that, and anyway, it's very impressive. I'm sure I'll think of something else I meant to say, but
Thank you, Felice.
Ms. Black.
I really appreciate being able to have these conversations, because that was one of my frustrations when I was running on the board too, is I felt like there wasn't leading up to when I ran, there was a lack of political courage to have these conversations and try and be innovative and come up with ways that we can best use the resources that we have to serve our students to the best of our ability. A lot of feedback that I get that this would solve it. Your community that wouldn't be available, for necessarily the way our schools are structured now is middle school band feeding into a high school band. That's a real issue at Howard, trying to have a very robust band for the high school when there's not really as much of a middle school feeder, or the programs aren't as strong in the middle schools that feed into Howard. And I see that like in this intermediate space, and even bringing the kids up to in the high school environment in 7th grade could really help with those issues around the activities that keep our kids interested and engaged in school, right? Like band, sports, and the things that, because we want to keep our families in public school. So I appreciate the opportunity to have this discussion. I appreciate the work that you've done on this. I want to make sure that we continue having these conversations, even if they're uncomfortable, to come up with solutions across the county, because we're looking at needing to have more conversations that aren't comfortable and making sure that we are doing the best for every kid in Hamilton County with the resources that we have, and that we're able to provide every kid in Hamilton County with an enriched experience as far as arts and sports and all of those things, for as many kids as we can. So I appreciate having this conversation, but I want to say that this isn't the last time we're going to have an uncomfortable conversation like this, but we need to be more innovative and keep looking forward and thinking forward for all areas of Hamilton County. Thank you for this.
Thank you, Jill.
Mr. Slater?
Thanks, Gary. Ben number 2 is going to have to come up with something similar to this with Nolan and Thrasher. I was up there for that meeting, and they're both pretty full. But Justin talked about Allen. I had teachers calling me, "We've lost a teacher. We've lost a teacher. We need to rezone." But I looked at my elementary schools, none of them are over 90%. So, I basically said, I'm sorry, but these figures don't lie. So, I think this is pretty smart, Jody.
Thank you, Steve.
Ms. Jones?
Dr. Robertson and Dr. Sharp, I know previously we had conversations about being included in the conversations of zoning with the planning commissions, those sorts of things, as they're bringing in these permits, the buildings. And that's why I stepped over there to ask Robert this, because this was my question. Are we able to be a part of those conversations? Because once again, like I said, I'm not knocking innovation. I'm just thinking beyond, like this is the 3rd time now we will have to address overgrowth, natural, but growth in this area. We built East Hamilton Middle High. It was overpopulated. We separated East Hamilton High, East Hamilton Middle. You shifted kids from East Hamilton to Ooltewah. You shifted kids from East Hamilton Middle to Ooltewah Middle. I mean, all these shifts happen. Then we build Appleton. Then we have East Brainerd. Now we bought Cigna. Like, at what point are we in these conversations to say, hey, this sounds great, but we don't have space for these kids. And if they're gonna come, what are we getting to support these communities with schools for their kids? And I'm asking that because it's happening here, right? We know it's happening in the north end of the county. It's beginning to become that situation there. Like, what conversations, where's our voice in saying, this is great. Come out of Hamilton County. We just don't have the space. And then we end up in conversations like this that put us at critical decisions where we never were a part of the decision to bring all these people into these neighborhoods.
I mean, I think it's a really good question and one we need to have with the county commission. We don't get to vote on permits, like board doesn't get to vote on zoning, right? And so I think it's a really important conversation that we should have with the county commission. I think you're also, I mean, we're having these hard conversations, and they are hard conversations. The two of you that have been through like really difficult zoning conversations, the Brainerd East Ridge one was easy, right? The zoning conversations are hard, and we're gonna have to start having some hard zoning conversations. We're about to have this same issue on the back of Signal Mountain, where we don't have room in elementary schools and we're building more houses. If sewer goes up to God's country, we're gonna be in trouble in places up there where we're gonna have to have hard zoning conversations. I would somewhat disagree with this idea of like, boards in the past have avoided these hard conversations.
'Cause we have not.
I wouldn't say that. I would say that we've had these hard conversations, but I also know what it's like to go into those rooms when you've moved somebody's
Right.
cheese and the reactions that you get.
Right.
And so, we've had some pretty hard ones. We had some hard ones downtown. Elementary schools are overcrowded, and you've only got room really at Brown, and at, you don't even have a lot of room at Hardy anymore.
Right.
But we were gonna rezone that way, and,
Right.
you know, hard conversations chose not to do it. But I do think that what this allows us to start thinking about is, we know we've got some areas that the natural K through 5, 6 through 8, 9 through 12 configurations don't work. I'm sorry, not that they don't work, they aren't filling schools, so that we could think differently about what that might look like. And that to me is exciting, to do something a little bit different. Again, the one hesitation I have is just going into this conversation, the reality, and someone said that logistically it shouldn't be that hard. It is. We're redoing bus routes, we're having to redo staffing. So the one pause I have is just the difference between this August and August of '26. But I think what it does is allows us to have a conversation that isn't just about East Hamilton, but could be about, you know, our urban core middle schools, right? Our urban core elementaries, the back of Signal Mountain, the north part of the county, that lets us think differently. Ben and I were talking about this a couple months ago. When I was in elementary on Signal Mountain, we went K through 3 at 2 different schools, and then 4th and 5th together at one school, and then everybody went to the middle school, right? So these different configurations aren't necessarily new.
I just want to say the word pilot is on that paper, because we are willing to be the pilot to get the data for how it can work in your districts. But to get that data, we got to get started. 2025, that's what I'm asking.
Mr. Groen, if you want to close out.
You can go ahead and sit down.
No, I'm
Okay,
happy.
okay. This concerns a lot of our proposed new building plan. And so as we move forward with Brainerd High School, and, you know, we're thinking about bringing over students from Dalewood into the high school and having like a middle school there. And then we're going to move the students at Barger to Dalewood. This is all connected together, even with the Cigna building, because as we continue to grow in both East Brainerd and East Ham, we're going to need that building as a transition building, and we need to be thinking these sorts of grade realignments as we pursue all of these projects for the next 5 years. So, you know, I think I would like, you know, where are we in Saudi Daisy, Clifton Hills, and Brainerd High School? I mean, what projects are we working on at this point in time in
Where are
terms
we
of
in the
architecture?
process? Yeah, that's what Mr. Witt was talking about earlier about the CMAR process that hopefully will come to you in March
Okay.
to approve, and using that for both Clifton Hills, Brainerd, and Saudi Daisy.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, so kind of in closing, Jody and I talked about this a couple different times. It doesn't involve any new builds. They're not on, East Ham is not on the MGT proposal for till the 7th year. We're a year behind. That would mean 8th year. It doesn't involve rezoning.
Be clear, it does involve rezoning, just
Well,
not.
immediate rezoning. Looking at the numbers, her and I talked, the one area that could, in the next 3 to 5 years, it could be overpopulated, ends up being East Hamilton 7 through 12 by going into this. But your elementaries still are under 100% in 3 to 5 years. Your intermediate school is still under 100% in 3 to 5 years. So you have one school to worry about instead of all the other schools. So again, a lot have commended you. You did some good research, and we'll see what happens here. That's everything. Dr. Robertson, you have anything, or Dr. Sharp, or Dr. Stewart, before we leave? All right, we are adjourned.